Welcome to another episode of Ultima Final Fantasy, the ultimate in confusing countdowns from 10 Final Fantasy podcasts.
You? Oh my God.
I am your host, Caleb Schweiss.
I am Joseph DeGolier, who definitely pressed it on 0, by the way.
That's alright, it's just going to be harder for me.
Yeah, I know. You just fucked yourself out of good audio track alignment.
Oh man, you have no idea. So the last episode, as you guys know, if you listened to last week's episode, we did a theme park episode with one of the listeners from another podcaster, fellow podcaster from Amusement Sparks, the podcast. And he sent his file that he sent me was all of it from the moment I started talking to him on the phone until we hung up. And I was like, oh, this is so much. Like, and I just had to keep digging in. And I'm like, all right, I was talking to him forever. But I can't tell, like, if we're past me talking to him and him talking to us, or, like, what. So I need this week to be a little bit more even-keeled as far as the amount of, like, realigning I have to do in post.
So you're just saying, so we're just going to go for it, just one audio file?
I mean, yeah, we could try that, yeah. Oh, I don't know. Maybe. I don't mind doing multiples. It's just when they don't match, that's when it starts getting dicey.
Okay.
So
I'm once again in my car in Los Angeles, and I'm seeing all the people on the street. It's good stuff. They're looking at me like I'm a bomber of some kind. I got like a headphone on. I got electronic equipment on me. And I've just been staking this place out for 45 minutes. So I don't... I had like two really old Hispanic ladies like very slowly drive past me. Like for a second I was like, oh fuck, I'm gonna be attacked. And then I saw it was like two like fucking 80-year-old women, and like they were just like scoping out all the cars, and they just kind of waved at me and I waved at them. It's a weird moment. It's just like, Jesus.
Not what you expected.
I need my own place, but I can't fucking afford it in this city. Not yet. So, like, someday I'll have, like, a room where I can talk to someone without, like, 9 other people listening in.
Yeah.
But so far that room is, right now that room is my car. And, that's just the truth of it. So Schweiss, you had a crazy week. Weren't even sure if you were going to be on UFF this week.
Yeah, it was a very crazy week. It's even crazier than one might think.
Okay, so get into it.
So Monday rolls around. I've got work, but I've also got appointments for Alexandria, and I've got to do some stuff to like make sure we're ready for the baby that we were gonna get. And I am blitzed, super tired, absolutely destroyed. And we drive up to the doctor's appointment. We get the appointment done. They're like, yeah, the baby looks huge. Like, you guys are gonna go with the C-section, right? And we decided yes, because we were worried that he was extremely large and like really broad, because that's what he was measuring with the ultrasounds, apparently. And so we're like, yeah, let's do it. And then I'm leaving the doctor's office, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna flip a U-turn because I'm on the Provo Orem Hill, and I totally just turned into some dude. So I haven't been in a car accident in like 8 years. And I bump into them, and it was the middle of their car. So, like, I don't know how I didn't see these people. And I was looking at it afterwards, and I'm like, where did they come from? Because, like, I bumped into them, and I was like, that's a weird sound. And then it was like, crunch. And then they just drove ahead of me, and I'm like, what? So, like, I feel like it's like the scene from Back to the Future when the guy just rips and goes into the future, you know, or Back to the Future with the flux capacitor or whatever in the car.
The lightning and the clock tower, sure, yeah.
Yeah, so like it almost seemed like they just zoomed past and I was somehow able to hit the center of the car. It's like where the two doors are. And of course, since it wasn't me bumping into somebody's rear end, I, of course, broke part of my bumper off. Mm-hmm. And it was dragging. And then naturally, since they're like 19 years old, they call the police, which is the worst thing to do, guys. If you ever get in an accident, don't call the police. What you do is you find out what's going on. You talk to the other person, like, hey, is everyone cool? Like, are you all right? And then you figure out, like, okay, who's at fault here? And then you just call your insurance. That's it. Calling the cops just makes it fucking complicated for everybody. And everyone, there's almost always going to be a ticket. And, of course, that was mine. Because I was just not paying attention. And I was just like, wow. And then go ahead.
I got when I rear-ended someone, I got the following too close ticket.
Yeah.
So
yeah, mine
did you get the following too close to the side ticket?
Yeah, I got the failure to yield or something. I don't know what it was, but it's $125, so I'm not pleased about that. And my bumper, so it was dragging a lot. And when we did the exchange of insurances, like, it wasn't a big deal. And I was just like, you know what? Over the years, there have been a bunch of times where I was like not paying as much attention, and I was like, whoa, that was kind of close. So I'm like, fuck it. Like, it was bound to happen eventually because I'm kind of reckless sometimes. And it's like, just, there's nothing I could do about it. There's no point getting pissed off because it's over. Like, and I walk over to the front of my car, and the bumper is just... You only have
yourself to blame.
I really do, yeah. There's no reason to get mad. It's like, I just need to get more sleep. Like, that's really just what it is. I need to get more sleep and pay more attention because I looked and I saw nothing. And since I was trying to do a U-turn, I, like, really turned, you know? Mm-hmm. And, yeah. My bumper is not on my car anymore because it was dragging real bad, and it was broken about 3/4 of the way, and I just grabbed it, and I just ripped the rest of it off and stuffed it in my trunk. So that happened Monday, and I was just like...
That's a nice car, too.
It's a real nice car.
Yeah, it's a real nice car that has no seat space because it's stacked with CDs and trash on the inside, and now you trash the outside.
Well, you know what the sad part is? It looks really nice on the inside now. Like, it's all cleaned up. Like, I did some upholstery stuff. Like, it's still got some of the stains, but it's like I'm starting to work it out. I've got to do multiple applications.
It's a low-grade curse. It's a low-grade curse on your car.
Yeah,
it's like one part of this will look like shit at all times.
And it's like, and I washed it recently, and even with because like not all of the paint from the wedding went off, and even with that on, I was like, man, this is a good looking car. And now, dude, it looks like ass. And it's funny because almost all the damage was the bumper. So all I need to do is replace the bumper, and it'll look fine again, and paint it, of course. Mm-hmm. The fender on the left side, which is where I ran into him, is a little bit bent, but it's not bent to the point where it will look terrible, or I couldn't bend it back into place, you know. So, like, it was a pretty clean swipe, but so a real rough start to the week. I go to work, you know, work a couple more days, or no, one more day, and then, oh my God, dude. I was just so out of it, and I was like, oh, I'm going to get gas when I go to work. And then I start leaving to go to Smith's because I have to go pick up, I think it was like some medicine or something. I had to go pick up something. And I was driving to Smith's, and I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot to get gas. And I'm like, you know, I'll just get gas when I finish up at Smith's. And I'm fucking pulling into Smith's, and like I'm just about to start parking, and the car just dies. And I'm like, are you serious? I have prided myself all my adult life of two things when it comes to my car. One, I've never locked my keys in my car ever. It's never happened. And two, I have never run out of gas. And that is no longer true. So I ran out of gas, had to have some dude help me like fucking push my gasless car into this parking spot. Because it's a bitch trying to like... at first I just had my door open a little, and I was just kind of like pushing it with my foot. It was in neutral, and I was like, okay, I'm going to destroy my door if I keep this up. And this dude came over and helped me push it. And so I went in, and I was like, all right, I need a gas can, because the Smith's has a gas station, a little fill-up station right across the street. Yeah. I was like, all right, all I need to do is get a gas can. And this, mind you, this is like, I think it's 2:30 or 2:15, 2:20, and I have to be at work at 3. And I haven't showered yet. And all I was doing was just running there to grab some, like 2 items real quick. Not a big deal. And so I run in, buy the thing. I go back out, and I go to the gas station thing across the street. And as I'm filling it up, I'm like, oh my God, this thing doesn't have, like, a nozzle. Like, there's no nozzle in here. I'm like, what kind of fucking gas can doesn't have a nozzle to pour the gas in? I'm like, what am I gonna... Who has, like, this gas reservoir that they could just dump it in, like, in a bucket of gasoline and just pour it in? So I'm like, fine, whatever. I'm sure they have a funnel in the store. Like, they had all these things for cars, you know? Not a big deal. I walk in... I go, and as I'm going, I'm like, if they don't have a funnel, I'll just buy, like, one of those plastic folders and just make one. And I go, and I spend, like, 3 minutes looking in the car area, and there's no funnel. I'm like, how is there no funnel? There's, like, every other thing. There's, like, 70 different kinds of make your car not smell like ass things in here. But I'm like, there's no funnel. You've got oil, you've got transmission fluid, no funnel? Like, what? What? God. So, yeah, I grab the folder, go out, pour the fucking gas in. The car is fine, because it was just the gas. Then I drive home, and, God, I get home, and and so we're still prepping for a baby, right? So we're, like, deep cleaning everything. And I go into the bathroom with my clothes, and I look in the tub, and there's just all of Jace's little, like, pretend food things. The tub's full, and there's all these pretend food things sitting in this, like, tub of chemicals. Just, like, cleaning them off because they're just dirty beyond belief. And I'm just like, all right, fuck it. I'm not going today. Like, I can't go in. I smell like shit. I don't have any gas. Like, I'm not going to lose gas and die and have people from work push me. And I can't deal with that. So I just called in. I'm like, I can't do it today, guys. I just can't make it. And then Wednesday morning, after, again, almost no sleep, we go in at like 9 in the morning, and we start prepping for the C-section. And the hospital's like super backed up, and for some reason it took like ages. So they prepped Alexandria up, and they had her like all ready to go. Had me with my little outfit, and we just sat in the room for I think like 2.5 hours almost, just waiting to get in and get this operation, this major surgery started, you know. And we go and we start suiting up, and I go back there, and it's crazy because it was like instant. They got her in, and they had me like sitting up next to her. They had the little surgery wall so you can't see the horrors beyond, you know.
Sure.
And the doctor's like, all right, scalpel. And then suddenly I hear like all this water everywhere, and they just like cut into it. And then like 2 seconds later, after that I hear a ton of grunting because I guess his head is massive. And they're like, they had to use forceps to like yank his fucking head out of there, because the problem is when babies are being birthed, they like get super stressed and they can like poop while they're inside, and if they do that, it can do some serious damage to the mom, because that's not supposed to be in there, you know. So he had to yank him out with these forceps, and then I hear a couple cries, and then me and the baby go off, and he gets to sit under this awesome like lamp thing. It's like a lamp for a lizard pet. It felt great, and I was like, damn, I want to get one of these for the house. You know, just fucking lay on a rock with this heat lamp and just, yes. And then, he comes out, and he only weighs 8 pounds. So I'm like, okay, so the C-section thing, we were freaking out because they're like, oh, baby's a huge, big boy, you know. And he's still like a week and a half early, but he only weighed 8 pounds.
A week and a half early, and he's 8 pounds? That is pretty big.
Yeah. I was
an 8-pound
bigger,
baby is a big baby.
I think I was like almost 3 weeks early, and I weighed 8 pounds and 8 ounces or something. But I also caused some serious fucking wreckage, so.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I tore it up.
I was a C-section.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, you said all of you guys are. It's probably a good thing, because...
Well, yeah, once you get the C-section once, I think you got to do it like every time.
Yeah, I think you have to do it at least the next time now, so some of that's still held up. But yeah, we get him there, and he's doing great. I mean, he lost weight the first day, which is normal because they aren't as waterlogged and whatnot. But I brought my PSP. We had like our travel bag. I had my Kindle and the PlayStation Portable and I had stuff to do while I was at the hospital because I was just going to stay. I just stayed with her the whole time, other than going and grabbing food and stuff. Because they only gave me one free meal, which is kind of bullshit, but whatever. I don't think they expect people to stay there the whole time. But so I've only slept on my bed one night in the last 4 nights, and I was sleeping on this fucking. It's like this quasi leather chair, but the chair, the back of it. It leans forward, so you could pull the back of it up, and then it'll pull the back down, and it makes it horizontal. And then you pull out it has its own little, it's almost like a footrest thing, but it keeps going. And then you can pull out another layer of that footrest to make it a 6 foot long little bed type thing. And then you kind of,
it's like a super lazy boy.
Yeah, kind of. It's like a weird mat almost. And it pulls out into that. And then I slept on that for three nights, I believe, or 2 nights. And that was awful, man. That was so terrible. Because, the room was just a little bit too cold, and I didn't have quite enough blanket to stay warm. And then every hour, these fucking nurses come in and, and you said something, man. You were like, oh, good luck sleeping from now on. And I was like, psh. Joke's on you. The baby's super quiet, because he was really quiet for the first 8 hours of his life. He only cried. I think he only uttered 2 cries when he was born, and that was it. But dude, when night came, oh man, because they come in and they just fuck with him. They come in and they're like, oh, we got to check his vitals, and then they bring him back and he's freaking out. And then they open the door and they do a bunch of noise, and they have to fucking check his armpit temperature and. Just, oh man, everything was keeping that boy awake. So I slept like dog shit for the last 3 days. Just whenever I could during the day, I would just occasionally just pass out for 3 or 4 hours at a time. Once or twice every single day, and it was almost nothing other than that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and then I get out of we get out of the hospital, go get the pump, get all this other stuff taken care of. And I'm also in the middle of this, by the way, after the baby's born and during my the first day I'm there, I posted on Facebook, and then my mom calls me crying, saying that my grandma went into fucking cardiac arrest.
Oh, Jesus.
Earlier that day. And I was like, what? I was like, okay,
God,
well,
dude.
where is she? And they're like, oh, well, she's at Utah Valley Regional Medical Center. And I'm like, so am I. I'll just go visit her, I guess. And so, a fucking car accident like that. And then I'm also getting emails because I'm refinancing my house and paying off all of our cars, which is funny. And, all the other debt that we have, just kind of consolidating it into the house, pulling some equity out. So I'm getting emails from that. I'm getting calls about my grandma's lower left portion of her heart being dead, and then putting a temporary pacemaker in, and I'm just like, God, there's just so much shit going on at the exact moment. It's fuck.
God.
And yeah, then I brought the baby back, and it's been pretty good since then. He sleeps a ton. I mean, newborns usually sleep 16 hours a day or something crazy. And he sleeps through the night pretty decently. I think last night he was woken up after about, it was a 4.5 hour stint of sleeping because he needed to eat. But he just kind of lays with us, and it's been pretty good so far. And the thing about sleep, it's not that you can't sleep, it's that they won't let you sleep, because you can, you could sleep, but you're just not allowed. You don't have the permissions to access the sleep,
Okay.
But yeah, I did plenty of Dissidia in the hospital because I didn't have really anything else to do, and it was good. It was a good little trip, except for the fact that I couldn't sleep.
Trip.
Yeah,
nice,
and my grandma's
trip.
doing fine. She's
I figured she would be fine if you were talking about her so brazenly, I guess.
Yeah, well, I did that. I did that initially too. I was just like, well, I guess that's convenient. I mean, I don't know. Something positive here, right? I happen to be in the hospital too.
Same hospital. Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, we're both here.
Yeah. And it was like, hey, look, you guys can visit Grandma. You can visit the new baby. You can get it all taken care of in one go.
Jesus.
I think she's still there, though. They have to... Her blood pressure, I think when she got there, it was like 40 over, like, 30 or something crazy. Like, something ridiculously low.
Okay.
They have, like, a temporary pacemaker in there, and they're trying to see if the heart will function without a pacemaker. Just see if, like, it picks up the slack for the dead part. And I guess there's like a 50-50 chance that it will, and if not, they'll just have to install a full-time pacemaker in.
Okay.
So, and I guess she's been having mini heart attacks, they think, for like the last week and a half.
Oh, wow.
Because she thought she was sick. She would just be feeling really, really bad, and then she'd go sleep for a while and then wake up and feel fine. And so they thought she had like the flu or something, but I guess she was probably having mini heart attacks.
Yeah, that's what really sucks. It's like, I got heart disease in my family, and I know that, like, some heart attacks, like, the left side's gonna hurt, and, like, that's the ultimate sign, but sometimes you just feel sick. And, like, unfortunately, it's like, how the fuck are you gonna know if you're just feeling sick or if it's a heart attack? Like,
yeah.
ooh, you know, some heart attacks, you just feel sweaty and nauseous. It's like,
Yeah, it's like, that's how I felt when I ate that soup at work one time.
Yeah.
Is that a heart attack? Like,
oh, man.
Did I have a heart attack 3 years ago? Like, shit. Yeah. So, man, it's been crazy, though.
That's nuts.
Yeah, but now everything's kind of settled. The only thing I need is a bumper. Like, that's the only thing left, I guess.
Did you get your house refinanced?
Yeah, I did. We're gonna close tomorrow.
Okay.
On the loan, so it'll be nice because I won't have to make a payment on the new one until beginning of June. So I'll have a little bit of time to decide what to do with my car, whether I want to fix it myself or just pay the $1,000 deductible with the insurance and have them cover the repairs. And that'll kind of depend on how much it'll cost me to do it.
Okay.
Plus, I feel like if I do it myself, the insurance probably won't go up as much. I mean, it'll obviously go up because I totally am at fault for that, but I don't know.
So with the refinance of the house, we talked about this off air, obviously, because this is a Final Fantasy show. We haven't talked about it yet. I think we talked about, like, because you guys are in debt with the 2 cars and with, like, student loans, right? Like, at the same time?
Yeah, student loans and Alex.
Is the refinancing like covering all of that?
Yeah, every bit of our debt will be wiped out.
So like your house payment will go up just a little bit, right? Something.
Yeah, it's going from like I think it's almost $760 right now, and I think it's going to be like $860.
God, you're saving so much money. That's insane.
I know, just between
you're adding on a few years to the mortgage, to be fair, but
yeah. But I mean, even with the 2 cars before, it was, I think that's almost just under $500 a month.
Wow.
And it's up by 100, so that's nothing.
So at some point, so this was the advice I got from my grandparents, my step grandparents. They would just. At some point, they paid off their first car, and then they would just save $200 a month. And by the time they needed a new car, they had all the money they had to have for the new car. Like, and they would just pay cash for the next car by saving up for it after so many years.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it because you're already used to saving and spending that amount of money.
Yeah.
And the plan for me was to do that with my car, and just because when I leased it, I think it was like $50 more a month than what it was when I got the loan, and I was like, oh, I'll just pay the extra $50, and it's like, that didn't really happen. It happened like twice, but then I looked at it and I was like, well, I mean, the interest rate is barely higher on this than it is my house, but my house, like, I'm spending $300 a month on interest, and the car I'm spending $6 a month on interest. So like, I'm not gonna fucking put it towards the car. Like, that's just madness. But that is a good idea. Once you have a bill, just kind of pretend like that bill is still there, and you'll work around it. You know.
Yeah.
And people have done that. People have done that with like having extra taxes withheld as well, because you can have the government withhold like X amount of taxes. Because you could if you just can't trust yourself, if you're like so untrustworthy with money that you trust the government over you with your money, that's a good way to do it too. You're just so bad that somehow they're better.
Hey, the U.S. hasn't defaulted yet.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You could do that, and that's like it's the same idea. It's just that's a bill in your mind, and you just file it away as a bill, and you just don't worry about it. And then when you get it back later, you've got all this in savings, essentially. No interest, but, you know.
The ultimate financial podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
I feel like that's something I wish I could do, like be a financial advisor. But I've become shitty with my money ever since I got married. Like, I've just been like, yeah, I'll just buy all this stuff, like, just cause. So I don't know if I would have as easy of a time as I would have a year and a half ago doing something like that. But
well, before you were trying to pay your mortgage off early.
Yeah, and that helped me a lot, because I mean, the sick thing, dude, the house, they appraised it, and this was like a full appraisal. Like, they walked through the house so they could see that like there have been some carpet incidents, like some stains, like the house is not as well put together as it should be in a lot of ways, and it still was totally worth like $208,000. So I could take out another $60,000 from it and still be just fine.
Dude, do it. Let's party.
Yeah, let's buy a lot.
You'll just have to pay for it later. Bro, we could travel the world. And I say we. Yes, I mean we. You have to bring me along.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right, awesome. Well, how far are you in Dissidia?
You know, so you told me, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday, that you had gotten, I think you said you got to Laguna's campaign, or no? I think you were.
I'm on. Wait, am I on? I'm on Yuna right now, I think.
Oh, okay. And you said there's only like 7 chapters in this game, right?
There's 7 chapters and an epilogue. My assumption is the epilogue is the final boss, but I could be wrong. Okay.
I guess we don't. It's hard to tell, because when I looked at a GameSpot or a GameFAQs guide, it had a lot of stuff in it, a bunch of different chapters. But I know, and we all know, that this game has the original game's storyline in it.
Yeah.
And we're not planning on playing that again, because honestly, almost all of it is terrible. The writing is just rancid in that fucking game. Except for the last bit, which is still a considerable amount of game, to be honest. I mean, like, our characters were like level 17 when we got there, and then by the time we beat it, we're like 60-something. So it's a lot of play for that last bit, but we were never planning on playing that again. So we might be pretty close to being done with Dissidia Dudekheim XIII 012.
Yeah, so I found this out because you sent that to me, and I was like, what? And like the IGN wiki guide only had the 8 chapters, or 7 plus the epilogue. And so I was really confused, and on the wiki article for it, it says that there's like the campaign that's 012 Dudekheim, and it's a prequel to Dissidia in that it just like goes into the original Dissidia story afterwards. And so that's why that one's 10 chapters long after that. So
Got it. So it's like the complete edition almost, Dudekheim.
Yeah, it's the complete Dudekheim.
I'm sitting here playing it, and I'm like, okay, so the number 12 means everything, and the first fucking person we see is from Final Fantasy 13. I'm like, fucking A, what is this game? Like, what are we trying to say here? Like, what is going on? I thought the number 12 meant something, but There's not even 12 chapters. There's not even 12 characters. Like, what?
I don't know.
There's 7 chapters and an epilogue.
I do know one thing. Laguna is the worst fucking character on the planet in every single way throughout both Dissidia games. I would be surprised if someone popped up and was worse. His controls are atrocious.
The only move I like is his finisher that's a close range attack. That's it. It's like the Ragnarok thing or whatever.
Dude, but like his move to just like get the numbers up, it's a pain in the ass.
I know, the one where he throws the grenade, I'm like, I've hit this like twice ever.
There's a grenade. There's the regular shooting, which is like slow and clunky, and you got to be at a certain distance. Like,
you can hold that in though. So if you get close,
I started doing that, and it still made it like 5% better. That's what it did. It's terrible.
And it's so weird because until we got there, I was having a lot of fun with all of the characters. I was like, wow, this is a really. They all feel different, and they're all really great. And, like, Yuna, even afterwards, Yuna's a great character, too. Like, I think she's a lot of fun to play. But, that Laguna, I was just like, fuck, this is bad, man. It's fucking guns.
Bad. It's bad. So that's my... And I'm on Yuna right now. I've been playing Dude Kime at the same time as watching Game of Thrones. Because, by the way, guys, to rewatch Game of Thrones, it's the number's up from now. It's probably 5 episodes a day for you guys listening to this. But when I started, it was 4 episodes a day in order to get there before the final season's premiere. But yeah, I've been doing 4 episodes a day of Game of Thrones, and I've been playing Dude Kime. That's at the same time because it's like I gotta double this up somehow. So that's what I've been. That's what I've been doing. So once again, not hearing too much of the old soundtrack or anything. It's like I Game of Thrones playing at the same time.
Yeah. It's a good soundtrack.
If we beat this early, I don't know how I'm going to find the time to both play Dissidia NT and watch Game of Thrones, because they're both got to use my PS4 to do that.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good point.
Oh, damn it. So I'm sorry, guys. I think, unfortunately, Game of Thrones is too good to... I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know how my priorities are. The only way those things work together is if I do on my days off from work. I can do both, but on my days on, I think Game of Thrones might have to take first priority. I'll be honest.
That's all right. I'm gonna be trying to go for as close to the platinum as I can for NT, and that is beastly. I have to win like 300 online matches, I think.
Oh, and is everybody there like some psycho killer?
I think so, yeah. At this point, yeah. Everyone that still plays it has fooled themselves into believing it's a quality product and is godly at it.
A real quick sidebar about Los Angeles. I'm on this like side street to find Wednesday parking. Or parking that they do the street sweep on Wednesday as opposed to Tuesday, so I had to like go find a spot. And this place has had like one car every like 2 minutes, and all of a sudden there's 11 cars in a row just coming up the street, and there's now like super traffic in like a minute and a half. It just like night and day just happened that way. I don't know what the fuck. There's like stop and go traffic right next to me on this little tiny street just randomly.
Jesus Sounds Christ. Awful.
I mean, luckily I'm just parked here, and I'll be parked here for the next day and a half. This is incredible. This is wow. Sometimes this city is just very interesting. So yeah, Game of Thrones, dude. Season 1. This is like my 5th time rewatching season 1, and I gotta tell you, it gets better every fucking time, that first season of Game of Thrones.
It's a really good season. It's like the first Lord of the Rings movie. It's just so good.
It's
it doesn't have as much action as the others, but like it's such a good setup.
But the drama of just the Ned Stark storyline and how everything just unravels, because that's what the first season is. It's just like one thing happens and it sets off a chain of events until like episode 8 in the season, and then it's like fuckery. Now there's like 9 different people that are gonna go for it just sets up the entire like series, and it's just so dramatically good. Like when they're starting to go after the Starks in King's Landing, and like Arya's there, and her sister and everything like that is happening, and of course the part with like the dancing master or whatever. Oh fuck! It's a good show. Shit.
Yeah, man. I know.
Oh, guys, if you got to get on the Game of Thrones train now. Like, now that it's the end of Thrones, we got it. Like, seriously, this is the greatest thing television has ever created, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
The only thing that's close is The Wire, but that's not as big. So
it's funny, like, people who don't watch it, they'll always say, like, I don't do fantasy. And it's like, the whole thing about Game of Thrones is that the fantasy element is really light. And it's mostly just good fucking, like, Shakespearean drama. Like, that's what it is. And it's incredibly dramatic and traumatic. And just, like, really good adult or grown-up entertainment. That's what that is.
I mean, whenever I see people that like pride themselves, like I'll see it on Facebook every once in a while. They're like this if you've never watched an episode of Game of Thrones, and I'm like, why are people this way? Like, they look at something and they're like, oh, it's successful. Oh, it's about dragons. Pff, lame. Like, and they won't watch it because it's successful. And I'm like, how much? Can you be any more of a hipster douchebag fuckface right now? Like, if you tried, I don't think you could. It's like, there's a reason why so many people love it. And I'll see, like, oh, well, this level of nihilism has been done before, and it's boring to me. And it's like, 1, you've never watched the show. 2, it's not a nihilistic show. Like, it's bad. A lot of bad things happen to people, but there's an entire order of people who give up their sex lives and like their families and their lineage and everything to defend the realms of men. They're like the least nihilistic group of people of all time. Like, just fuck you. You don't know what you're talking about. The show's great. And like, it just makes me so mad that people just dislike things, and it has to just be because it's so popular. And I get it, because like, I was there, you know, like Caleb Craig, like everyone in fucking Springville Junior High in 2004 or whatever the fuck I was there. All it was all day long, quotes from 2 movies. Those movies, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, which I have seen and I love. It's amazing. Yes. That one deserved it. And then the fucking the one with the Pedro for President guy. What is that movie? What is that?
Napoleon Dynamite.
Napoleon Dynamite. I have not seen that one. I refuse. So I get it. I get when people talk about it so much, you just get tired of hearing it. But trust me, it's gonna be the fucking Holy Grail. It's gonna be really funny the first time you watch it, and the second time you watch it, you're gonna be dying. Because it's just that funny. Yeah. You've heard every quote 1,000 times because people won't shut the fuck up about Monty Python and the Holy Grail when you were 12 and 13 years of age. But it's worth it. It's one of those things it's just so fucking good, and you owe it to yourself to consume it. And it's not about the fantasy. Like, it's never been about the fantasy. That's what makes it what it is. It's about the character development. It's about like the human experience that all of these people go through. It's not a good versus evil. It's just a A versus B. It's this guy versus that guy, and it's so much deeper than almost everything else that I've come across. That honestly, if you're just holding out because it's just so popular and you don't think you're going to be into it, trust me, you will be into it. Almost everyone that has watched it has been into it. I haven't met really anyone that's gotten past like season 1 and not wanted to continue watching the show. And it is fantasy, but it's not about the fantasy. That's not what makes it great.
Well, there's some things like I have a problem. So Schweiss, I have a wide net when it comes to like my movie love, okay? And, like, I have a pretty narrow net when it comes to, like, my music love. So I recognize that, like, as a music lover, I'm kind of like a regular person. I have, like, nah, I don't like this genre, nah. Like, and I know it. It's a stupid hypocrisy within myself that I'm not able to appreciate music as widely as I do movies. With movies, I can pretty much be like, it can be any kind of movie, and I'll give it a chance. And it doesn't matter to me. Like, I'm not a person, like, shit that bugs me, drives me up a wall, is like people, they'll just say, oh, I'm into this type of sci-fi and not this type of sci-fi. I've heard that argument about 3 times in my life now, and I want to murder people because of that shit. I'm like, who cares? It's drama. It's not the surface of the thing that you are actually attracted to. There are things about that, sure, you like the art style or whatever, but the thing that actually makes you as a human enjoy, like, a piece of drama is the dramatic element, the basic human dramatic element within it. Maybe you can't see it, maybe you need to study that in order to get that shit, but really, none of that surface stuff fucking matters whatsoever. And the problem is that, like, people will just, like, they'll blanket statement surface things. Like, oh, I like urban fantasy, but I don't like deep fantasy, or like whatever the fuck, right? They'll put blocks in their way for that. Honestly, there's really only there's 3 different types of genres, and it's drama, comedy, and farce. There you go. Like, really, on the basic level. And when people, like, everything that's, like, categorized, all you're doing is putting walls up past possibly enjoying something new. Note the book Green Eggs and Ham as an example of why that's so fucking stupid. And also, you're blocking other people from enjoying whatever you enjoy. Because you're now categorizing something that doesn't need to be categorized. It's fucking art. Nothing needs to be categorized here. Now, so there's that. Now, when someone doesn't want to try something because it's popular, the issue is that for me and you, as someone who loves something that is popular, okay, number one, you've over-talked it. So if people are going to try it, now they're going to see all the flaws in it, because and their enjoyment is thus going to be tainted because of that. And they know that, and unfortunately, like, we don't really recognize that as well. So there's that one problem with that. So here's my thing. Okay. We have to, as lovers of Game of Thrones, change our tactic. We have to change our tactic from going, and from Final Fantasy as well, okay? We gotta change our tactic from going, this is a great fucking game, it's so good, I can't believe you haven't played it yet. And here it is, and I'll shove it in your face and tell you all the reasons why it's good. You have to change it to, look, it may or may not speak to you. Try these 3 games. Okay, I actually had a Twitter conversation about this, like, earlier. You know, try 6, 7, or 10. Try them all. Just try them for a little while. One of them should speak to you. If they don't, it's not a big deal. All right, but at least you've tried it. And there's only 2 things that can happen here. 1, it's not for you. Or 2, you're gonna love it. And it's gonna be gonna be great. It's gonna be a great experience. All you're doing when you're saying, like, I'm not gonna watch Avatar, I'm not gonna watch Game of Thrones, it's like, all you're doing is, like, stopping yourself from the possibility of enjoying something.
Yeah, and it's like, what's so wrong?
What is the point of that?
Yeah, what's so wrong with enjoying something that a lot of other people enjoy? Like, and it's so weird because they'll dislike that thing, but then they'll be like huge Star Wars fans or like huge fans of something else, and I'm just like you like Radiohead to the point of obsession, but you won't give Game of Thrones a try. I'm like, you realize Radiohead's popular too, right? Like, it just do it, man. There's just
try
it's like,
things.
I don't understand why you're afraid of liking something that other people thoroughly enjoy. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, so I have in the last couple years, I've been preaching this way. Unfortunately, like on this show, we're both huge Game of Thrones fans, so we're going to be like, yeah, fucking yeah, Game of Thrones. But, like, if someone hasn't watched Game of Thrones, my new tactic is now like, hey, look, you know you may not want to try it because it's so popular and people are over-talking it. Don't worry about that. It's a show you're probably going to enjoy. So you might as well, like, you know, just try it. Just watch the first season. And if you're not into it, I get it. You gave the first season a try. Like, just like your approach to trying to get someone else to watch it has to change. Everybody out there, for anything. Like, people, if you do it heavy-handed, they're either going to be like, yeah, I want to fucking try it, or they're going to be like, fuck no, get the fuck away from me. Your energy is too much. So, like, and I watch a lot of movies that you guys don't watch. So, like, and I find a lot of great gems that a lot of people aren't going to see because of that. So, like, my new thing has been like, hey, if you got time, go watch The Mustang in theaters right now. Like, it's a little movie. I think you might find something you like about it. All right? I happen to think it's a great... There's not that many great horse movies. This is certainly the best horse... This is the best horse movie I've ever seen. But, like, I can't be, like, shoving it in your face and being like, it's amazing! I fucking cried, like, 9 times! In this fucking movie, man, the fucking performances are amazing, and the cinematography is beautiful, and it has this incredible story about, like, a man and his fucking, like, what he finally learns to be unselfish for once, and it has to do with his fucking horse, all right? Like, and he has to learn how to control his anger, and it's reflected within the horse, and all this other, like, I can go on about that shit if I really wanted to. But no, I have to be like, hey, I think The Mustang is a really good movie, and you should see it. You know, at least rent it on Redbox or something like that. And then, when you like it, when you come back to me and go, yeah, The Mustang's the best movie of the year so far, I go, yes, it is. And then we can get into it as two people who have watched this thing together. Like, yeah. It's a little different. And if it didn't speak to you, then it's like, oh, okay, well, that's all right.
Yeah, and I mean, you could still talk about it then, and there have been times where I've not necessarily totally changed my opinion, but I've like been like, yeah, I can respect it. It's just not really for me.
Yeah,
you know, and then you leave the Mustang with a, yeah, it's a good movie, but it's not really a movie that I seek out. It's not my type, you know, sure. As opposed to just being like, that was a waste. Mm-hmm. So you can gush after. Even if they didn't love it, but... Yeah,
and that's really the proper approach as people who love things. So obviously people listening to this are gigantic fans of Final Fantasy. And just because, like, you gotta, like, think, okay, am I pushing these people away? Because, like, I've heard a lot of times, like, well, I've never played Final Fantasy before. I'm not really interested. I know that 7's, like, a big deal, or whatever. I'd be like, well, try it. Just try it. Like, I'm like... You gotta, change your approach to how you try to convince people to participate in something. Especially the hipster types that are going to maybe not want to try something because it's popularity.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, that's a whole thing. That, like, I have a whole, like, philosophy on that now. It's just like, I can gush about fucking movies I've seen. And I have on this show, probably. But over the last couple years, it's been like, let's tone it down, and then people might actually give it a chance.
Yeah, and I've definitely been a victim and a perpetrator of that very thing, you know, just talking it up. And I don't know. Sometimes it works. Because they'll trust you and they'll trust your opinion on something, and a lot of times it won't, because it's almost like you've got this, you know, religious zealot in front of you, and you're like, how can I believe that it's really that good to where, like, all they want to do is talk about that, you know? Mm-hmm. And it does get irritating on the other end, because, like, I didn't really have a way to watch Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Like, I didn't think I did anyway. And it just got to the point where, like, everyone was quoting it. Dude, it was, like, all day. And I'm just like, God, would you just... Like, have you fucking seen anything else in your life? Like, really, man? Like, really? This is like a movie that's, like, fucking 30 years old.
Say, nay, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, or like, I'm not dead yet. It's like...
There are some who call me Tim.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of my favorite fucking parts of that entire movie. Just... and I actually made a reference.
Rabbit, it is the rabbit.
I actually quoted that. I put the clip of that in the last episode of Schweiss and Johnson because it was the episode of Game of Thrones with the children of the forest. They're like launching their like little fireball things. It's like there are some who called me Tim. But like, yeah, there's a reason why it's such a phenomenon, and it's so big because it's so approachable for so many different people. Like the only reason, and there are people that like it's a show that people will get edited versions of to take out the sex. Like they're willing to bend the product to the point where there's no super high content stuff because the drama in it is so good. Like I know multiple people who don't like the content, but they have found ways to like edit the show. They watch like the edited version and they still love it.
The Vid Angel version. I've noticed so most of the nudity and shit takes place in like the first 2 seasons. And I like to call it the random tit. It's just like sometimes in the first 2 seasons there's just a random tit in a crowd.
Yeah.
It's like with the Dothraki, they're just like dancing women, and then just like randomly we'll have a shot of one just has a tit hanging out.
Yeah, it's like it's like watching Psych and trying to find the pineapple in every episode. You're like, where's the titty?
just one random tit. But the show, as it got more popular, the HBO was like, fuck, we gotta scale this back.
Yeah. And it's gotten... I think it just gets stronger, like especially around the center. Seasons 3 and 4 are like the greatest TV seasons I've ever watched, you know. And it is such a good... It's just such a good show. And it's the drama that gets you, and it's the excellent character development. And there's so many characters that you do a complete 180 on. Like, wow, this guy is unforgivable. And then there you get an episode near the end of season 7 where you're on the edge of your seat and like you're like genuinely like, oh my god, what the fuck is gonna happen? There's like 2 of my favorite characters that I've been watching for the last like 8 years of my life are like fighting. Like there's a huge battle going on between these 2. One of them could die at any second, and like I was on the, you know what episode I'm talking about. Like, I was, like, on the edge of my seat, and I was like, man, I am, like, anxious. Like, it was like, one of the first times in my life I had felt true anxiety, and I'm like, this is a TV show, but, like, I am just like, fuck, dude. Fuck. Like, something's gonna happen. Like, God, it's just so bad. Like, I love these fucking characters. It's like the one who's probably gonna lose is the one I love the most, too, and he was the one I hated the most in the beginning. Oh, my God. Like... It's just such a great example of just true character building, and they do such a fucking great job of that in that show. Yeah. And almost all of the performances are pretty great, or at least okay, you know.
As long as it's not a sand snake.
Yeah, sand snake, they're fine. Yeah.
Fuck, man, that's the only reason season 5 is not as good to me. Like I love everything else about season 5. Yeah,
rewatching it, I'm 3 episodes in, and I'm like, it's pretty good so far. And then I looked at the name of the next one, and I'm like, that's the one. That's where it starts. It's got the episode where the one guy dies, and then the fucking sand.
It doesn't matter though. It's like season 6 makes up for it for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like, it's another amazing season.
Oh man, I'm excited, bro. And there's great stuff in season 5. So,
there really is, yeah. There's a lot of good stuff. It has a strong-ass start. And then Hard Home, episode 8, is one of the best episodes of the show. And I wonder, part of me wonders, like, if that's just because season 5 is such a goddamn drag, and then suddenly we get, like, a pretty good episode, and then it's like, oh! It's like we've had nothing but mediocrity, and finally we can show something off. I'm not sure.
The worst season of Game of Thrones is still like one of the best seasons of any show on television ever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still pretty good, yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I fucking love it. I love rewatching it. Love playing Dissidia Dudekheim at the same time. So yeah, man. Crazy week for you. Not so crazy week for me. I'm in the zone right now, bro. Like, I had like a good 2 months worth of like shitty fucking depression. And now I'm like, I kind of like just reorganized my life and it just like smooth. Pretty smooth sailing. There's some like, I don't know, there's like some mild girl drama going on, but I don't know. It's not too bad. So we're going through, we're having a good time over here. So can't wait till your life and shit like smooths out and then mine will go to hell. We'll just like go back and forth.
Yeah, exactly. It's the seesaw of shit show. It's a shit show seesaw.
So you finally read Sapiens, right?
I did, yeah. I finished it up one of the nights at the hospital where I just couldn't sleep. And I started dozing off near the end, and I just sat up and just started like moving my legs around and just staying awake because I was like, you know what? I've got 2 hours left. I'm going to go 1.25 speed, which I should have been doing the whole time, I discovered, because he's not a slow reader, but he's not a fast reader either. So
sure.
If you're going to listen to it, do the 1.25.
Mm-hmm.
That in addition to the fact that I don't have work, so I kind of have been slacking on getting that book read because it's an audiobook and I do it when I'm working.
Yeah.
But I've been off, so it's like, okay, I got to finish this before I forget. And I knocked it out, I think it was 3 nights ago, and I finished listening to Sapiens. Yes.
Yeah. So my 2 favorite books now are Sapiens and The Power of Myth. And so I've been sitting on these books. I've been sitting on Sapiens for about a year. I've been sitting on Power of Myth for like 2 years now. And there's a pretty, like, I feel like if people are listening to the shows and they listen to it like really quickly through, you're going to notice a very politically involved Joe swing from left to right, like all over the place, and get like really mad about certain like social issues and everything. And you're going to notice that it stops pretty dead. And honestly, it's because of the combination of those 2 books. First, it was like Power of Myth, and then it was Sapiens. And just like slowly, or not really that slowly, like you can watch me become kind of a nihilist. Just like not giving a shit anymore. Because I used to be with you, Schweiss, and you'd still do this on Nude Clan, where like you'll go on a tirade about something. It'll be like something is like a social issue or an economic issue. And I'm sure listeners of our shows just kind of like roll their eyes and like just like they're on something again. And you know, sometimes
here's an old man Schweiss yelling at those kids on his lawn.
Yeah, I've heard Old Man Joe a lot longer than you've heard Old Man Schweiss.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like that's how big of an effect those books have had on me. And the stronger one of the 2, certainly the one that's less about like, I don't know, like myth, is Sapiens. And it's interesting because I made Cameron read it and I made you read it, and I want to know your thoughts on it. To me, it's like my favorite book ever. It's like my life philosophy now. And like my all those things I cared about that really didn't mean anything, but I cared about them. So like political parties or like shit like that. All of a sudden, I don't care anymore. And my blood pressure has gone way down, and I'm only consumed by my art. It's just like a totally different, like, my entire mind had been like, there were things I knew before, But they all, because of that book, were all like connected. Like the synapses in my brain just like went, dit, dit, dit. This is how you will see the world now. And I guess it could change in like 10 years, but that's the effect the fucking book had on me. So as a new reader of Sapiens, I want to know like your thoughts on this.
Well, so a lot of it were things that I had known, and not a lot, I guess. There's some big ones that I had made observations on beforehand, like the whole idea of money and belief and stuff like that. Like it was like 7 or 8 years ago. I just started thinking about it one day, and I was like, money is such a bizarre concept because like we have these bills that are backed by gold we've never seen before, but we believe is there, and that's it. That's just the end of it. But it rules the world, and people call money the root of all evil, and like money's a huge thing. Everybody's trying to get more money, but really at the end of the day, it's just made up. It's just something that we've all agreed, to put value in, and has made life way easier as opposed to the barter system, which the book goes into very deeply and not very deeply, just on a surface level, and like explains this is why it doesn't work, is because I need a pack of Band-Aids or some gauze strips for my wound, but you don't need corn, and all I do is make corn. So it doesn't work. You can't do the barter system. It's just impossible. So we created money. And the book talks about money a lot, and it talks about religion a lot. And the one thing that I liked the most, and this book is not PC, by the way. This is like, it's like unapologetically neutral. And it's like, no, you're an idiot because of this.
No,
and
it doesn't say that.
No, it doesn't actually say that.
Idiot would be a story.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no, here's reality. It's the most red pill of all time. This is the ultimate red pill book. If you, like me, claim to be a red pill guy who just wants to see the horrors of reality, this is for you. Because this is straight up. I don't know how much of it is totally true, and like the end part gets a little weird when he starts talking about the future. There's some interesting ideas there.
Yeah.
And it's like Blade Runner at the end, like what is life? And it's like, oh god, the unicorn. Yeah, it's cool, but the other things that I love, and the biggest part that I was like, yeah, that is weird that people do that, was when it came to culture. So we have in the United States, it's like a hodgepodge of cultures. We have a bunch of different people that are like proud of where they came from and proud of all that stuff, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being proud of your Germanic or African heritage or your Spanish heritage or anything like that. There's nothing wrong with it. But the funny thing is, and this is something I've been like on the precipice of realizing numerous times, because I was just like, why do I not care about culture? Like I don't care. It's not bad. It's not good. Like I find all the culture stuff, all the culturally invested people interesting, and I find the things they do interesting, but I don't feel like I need to be a part of that. You know what I mean? And I've always just been like, I guess just because I'm white and straight, like I just don't have anything to really cling to. But the interesting thing the book talks about is like, the guy's like, it's very interesting to observe people from this region being very proud of the fact that they are Greek, when really they weren't Greek at all. The Greeks came in and slaughtered and pillaged and destroyed them and absorbed them into their society, and now they identify as their captors. It's like the ultimate in Stockholm syndrome, you know what I mean? Like, and that's really what it is today. There's all these people that are like so proud of these things, and then they'll do an ancestry kit and they'll find out they're not even from that area, and they're so involved in it. Like my buddy Christian, his dad was like so not having the fact that they weren't Swiss, because he had grown up believing that they were Swiss and believing all these things, and then Christian took it and he's like, we're not Swiss, and his dad's like, yeah, that's bullshit. And his dad's like an architect. He's like a genius. He went to fucking like the Middle East and built schools. He like designed schools and designed bridges and all these things. Super smart guy. Still unable to cope with the fact that his whole cultural upbringing was a lie. It was based on something that wasn't true. He wasn't fucking Swiss at all. Like, not even a little bit. As far as I could tell, he was like a Gaul, like most of us, and then they just got conquered by Rome. So I thought that was like one of the coolest things in there. And then there was also the discussion in the beginning on the different like peoples potentially being from different models of humans. So like the Sapiens, as we are now. It's not like the idea is like either A, Africa is the cradle of life, and that's where we all came from, which to me doesn't really make sense, just because of how different people are. So I kind of take the other approach. I kind of like that one a little bit more, where both of them kind of existed, and one of them just like won out, which is the Sapiens, just over time, or they crossbred. I like the crossbreeding one that they discussed in the book, where we all just kind of melded together and started interbreeding, more than the domination idea, the domination theory. But that thing talked about something that's extremely non-PC, and it talked about the idea that, yeah, some of us, it's not saying that like there are superior versions of Homo sapiens, it's just saying they're superior in different ways. You know, like they might have been more advanced. That's not to say you can't bring yourself up to that. It's just saying that like on a base level, there were other species and they had different levels of like acumen when it came to physical, mental, or like social or anything like that. And like none of that really matters now, obviously. But like I thought that was really interesting that it discussed that there is a possibility that not, and that's why it was like this would be a nightmare for like for it to come out in like the 40s in Germany, like, and that's a lot of what happened with the Nazi regime, is they believed in some of these studies that were coming out, and that they were the superior race that these things were talking about.
They attached some sort of worth to it. That's the
exactly
problem.
And that's what's wrong, and the book demonstrates like, yes, maybe on an average, like you get 100 of this type, you get 100 of that type, they might be better at this, but these guys are going to be better at that. So it's like you don't attaching that false worth to it is what creates these huge problems. And that's the thing with like when it comes to anything, when it comes to the genders, when it comes to, you know, male and female, it's not, we're not the same. Like it's impossible to be the same.
Yeah, it's attaching worth to something, and the worth is interimaginary, which is my favorite word that he came up with. For this book.
There's and it's weird because like I feel like now we're at a time in the world where we're attaching so much worth to so many different things, and like it's become I don't know, everything's like ass backwards in a lot of ways to me, where it's like, no, we are better, and like we need to do this and we need to do that, and it's like, well, it's you and I instead of like us. And I feel like a lot of that comes out of these types of ideas, and people taking it sort of the wrong way, and people seeing these studies and like attaching, oh well, this needs to happen. Or if you look at any like media manipulation, you know, like manipulations, and when it comes to the media, people are attaching the idea of reality to what they're seeing in front of them, when it can be almost nothing further from the truth. You know, but we've subscribed to that, oh, this must be an equal, you know, we're getting equal representation in this, and this, so the world is racist, or the world is sexist, or the world is this and that and the other. And this book really breaks a lot of that down and just shows that it's all just myth. It's all
of them are stories. Everything about this book is that human beings, the reason why we've come up with so much shit and have like progressed so much is because of our ability to tell stories and believe stories.
And that's what separates us from beasts, and that is the biggest thing, I would say, because Wayland, my cat, he doesn't believe in imaginary things, as far as I can tell.
He can just live.
Yeah, he just lives. That's all he does.
He eats and fucks and sleeps. And one of my favorite like things in that book, and I can't remember the quote exactly, but it has something to do with like, you can't tell a monkey to not eat a banana now in order to have the promise of later having like as many bananas as he can eat in monkey heaven later. Like he's never going to believe that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's pretty much what the quote was. Yeah, he can't possibly understand what you're even saying. Like it's No, I'm eating this banana.
So that's the human ability right there. It's the ability to believe bullshit. So there's that. The chapter that I think means the most to me, or like the section of the book that meant the most to me, there was a couple. There was like the 3 lies in the preamble to the Constitution of the United States. It's like all men are created equal, and then he's like, that's scientifically not true. And also, like, it's also, like, not true in any sort of story sense, but we have to all believe it in order for us to, like, I don't know, like, to function as a society. It's like, we have to believe in equality, but what is equality? Equality is a made-up concept, which is a story concept. It doesn't exist. Nothing exists. That's the fucking... So there's one there. Then the other one was, like, ideologies have the exact same function in every single respect as a religion. So a political ideology that you don't believe in has the exact same, like, everything about it, every single thing about it is the exact same as a religion that you don't believe in, or that you do believe in, right? And it's only simply your belief in it that makes it real. And it has self-contradictory things all over the place. And yet we still, like, attach truth to something.
Yeah.
In reality, in literal, like, logical reality, does not, like, there's no truth in there. Yeah, and and to me, it's not so much that it's all made up and it's fake, because it's a very real thing. Oh, it has real consequences.
Yeah, it has real consequences, but it's still made up. Yeah, and it's a hard idea to wrap your mind around. It's like wrapping your mind around the idea that the universe doesn't end. You know, that whole idea. Like, if you really think about that, that's something that we can barely comprehend. Because, like, everything we look at has an end. Everything we've been able to observe, as far as we know, has a finite amount of space. But the idea that the universe goes on forever, or numbers go on forever, is almost something beyond our ability to comprehend. And I think that's kind of what this is sort of getting at in a lot of ways. And I guess the book Sapiens, I mean, it definitely doesn't take a stand, but it kind of says this is what has happened under these particular made up ideologies. And I've had discussions with people where someone told me socialism is inherently evil, and I was like, it's kind of a ridiculous statement, because all it is a group of ideas. Like, it's only bad. Evil
is also a story, but yeah.
Yeah, it's only bad if not everyone agrees with it, and that goes along with the story. It only doesn't work when you stop believing, right? Yeah. So, like, if you don't want to be a part of a socialistic sect, let's say we had, like, every neighborhood was its own country and they had their own governing body and their own governing style. If you didn't agree with that style, then yes, it wouldn't work for you, and you would despise it, and you would leave. You know, and that it's not necessarily that it's inherently evil. It just only works when everyone believes in it, I guess, is what this book is saying. Yeah. And it's easier for more people to believe in what we've seen semi-recently with the downfall of, like, feudalism and like the monarchies going away, where we've started to see all of these advancements because of that shared belief between individuals. And I honestly, it's so amazing to me just how far we've come as human beings. And this book really hammers home this point, like how far we've come in the last 100 years versus the last 1,000 years. Like, it's so incredible to see just how many advancements we've made, you know, because the last 1,000 years we invented, like, the ability to make iron and steel and, like, these metals where we were mixing two things together. Like, Rome didn't have that, but later country or later nations did, and, like, those were the big things, like the ability to, you know, bring water to your crops and the wheel and sailing, all really big things. But we've gone from conquering the Wild West to being on the moon in 60 years. Like, that's amazing. And I think this book did a really great job of kind of highlighting that as well. And I think that was the biggest takeaway for me from reading Sapiens is, yes, everything is, or most things are made up, but they do have real consequences, and I think it's important to take that into effect and to take that into consideration when you're deciding which idea you want to subscribe to. You know, and I think a lot more of that should go into your thought process when it comes to deciding how you feel about these particular stories or political ideologies or religions. And religion to me is a big one because, like, and it's funny because I'm just like, it's kind of ridiculous, but like I'm totally like a near free market capitalist, and I'm like, I guess that's kind of the same thing in a lot of ways. But like you look at the the Virgin Mother birth myth, that's like part of dozens of religions. You look at like how religion has adopted stuff. The book talks about how like when Rome would conquer a certain area, they would gladly just take part in their religious stuff, one for saving face, and two because they're like, it doesn't really matter, it's just fun, it's just more celebrations to have. Like, sure, yeah, we'll celebrate, why not, it doesn't hurt anything. And that was kind of their approach to it. And that, to me, is like, well, that's why I don't subscribe to it, because, like, that's the approach. Is it's just, whatever. Yeah, that's cool. But, like, at the same time, I subscribe to, celebrating Christmas because it's an American holiday, and that's part of our culture.
Christmas is an American holiday.
It is. It is an American holiday. It's a national holiday. So, like I said, I celebrate it. And it's not that I believe in the mythos behind Christmas or anything like that. It's just a fun time to get together with family. Most people have the day off, except for me, and you get time to do things important. So it's about like the end game of whatever belief you're subscribing to. And I think this book, I don't know, it really gets you thinking about everything that you do, everything that you represent, everything that represents you. And I loved it. I thought it was great. There were parts. And I love the idea of money, and like how the guy was like, money is quite possibly one of the greatest inventions we've ever come up with. And it's so true. Being able to like all give in to this idea of something having value to make our lives easier, it's caused so much advancement because we had time to toil, we had time to discover, we had time to, investigate because everything else is so much easier. It's like now we have time to complain about fake things that aren't fucking real, like microaggressions and other trash like that. Like, we got time to do that because we have so many things we don't have to do anymore. We don't have to go out and forage for food. We just go to Wendy's and
none of that shit is real. It's all just a story. From both sides, by the way, pro and against.
Exactly, yeah.
It doesn't actually... It's not real. The only thing that's real is, like, what is real? Like, I'm sitting in a thing made up of, parts. Like, those are real, I guess.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, you just have to look at the consequences of what the thing you're subscribing to has caused. Yeah. And I see it time and time again, like, pro-socialistic or pro-communistic, like, oh, well, that wasn't real communism, or that wasn't real socialism. And it's like, no, it was as real as it gets. Like, none of it's real. The effects are all that is real. And if the effects are devastation and a loss of millions of lives, well, that's the only real takeaway that you can get from that.
Yep.
And there's a lot more things that go into it, but at the end of the day... Body count, yeah. Quote Adam Carolla. You just want to see that body count. Those are the only things
that are real. Well, the thing that it also, like, the super, like, mind-bending thing it did for me, it was, like, midway through the book, when it was talking about, like, political ideologies being religion. It's like, I went through that day, and I watched the news, and I heard my father arguing whatever he was arguing. Right. And all I saw throughout the day, and since that day, was, like, bullshit. Everywhere. It's like, no, I'm not Islamic, right? So no one can tell me that Allah matters. Like, It just isn't there. The belief isn't there. So when I hear, like, a religious argument from a religious standpoint, like, acknowledging that a religion is true, that doesn't, it's not part of my makeup at all, it doesn't work. The argument doesn't work. And that's exactly what, like, to me, like, all, like, political parties especially just suddenly became... I had already, like, felt that they were stupid because of Power of Myth, because I started seeing a bunch of storytelling shit happening around me. But then, like, also, like, now just suddenly no power in my mind. It's just like,
and I mean...
when someone goes on a political tirade of any kind... Now, this is sort of a political tirade right now. Obviously, like, this is a type of that, so I'm acknowledging that. But when I see that happen, I just suddenly, like, it just makes it... Everybody looks like a kook. In my mind.
It's the guy in my humanities class saying how ridiculous it is that, you know, we believed in Apollo pulling the sun across the sky, and then on Sunday he goes and worships a zombie that came out of the ground. It's like... We have yet to see someone come back from the dead, yet you believe in that, but you don't believe in something that they did see, they just couldn't explain, or you call that ridiculous.
No.
Like, they're both ridiculous to me. You know, like, one's fun, and one has a lot of rules, even though he seemed like a chill guy when he turned water into wine. Like, his dad's an asshole, you know?
Sure.
It's all just made up, yeah. And it is interesting to really look at stuff that way, and you can see it when it in politics now. Like with, I kind of try to take more of a middle of the road, like kind of do what you want as long as it doesn't endanger myself, and then we'll have consequences for it, kind of a guy. But I see both sides just going crazy in the U.S. as we approach an election season, you know, next year. Is it next year, or is it... Oh, man, I think it's...
2020 is the election year.
Okay, so it'll be November 2020.
Technically, yes, next year. We're just at the beginning of 2019, so it feels weird saying that.
Yeah. Well, don't they choose it this November, or is it next November?
It's next November.
Oh, okay.
Not this
Man,
November.
they're getting started early with this shit.
No, I know. And here's the terrible thing about 4-year terms, right? Is like half the time the president is working on just getting elected again.
Yeah.
He only had 2 years of being a president, actually being a president.
And then 2 years of trying to jerk everyone off.
Yeah, and that's every president. You know, I'm not speaking specifically about this one.
Yeah.
It is like they give them 6-year terms in Great Britain for the prime minister, and like that sounds better.
Yeah.
In some ways, unless you don't like the president, in which case it sounds worse.
Yeah, it sucks to be you at that point, right?
Yeah, I guess.
But I mean, it's so much of it is like it's just perspective, and that's why the media is such a negative force in our world. You know, I mean, we saw it with the students surrounding the Native American guy. Like, it's all perspective, and you can twist that narrative, you can twist that story to fit whatever you want to at the end of the day. Like, and it's funny because I'll see it time and time and time again, but they'll just move on to the next story. Like, no one focuses on it for more than, you know, a week. They're like, oh, it blew up. Like, man, it was all a lie. Or like the Jussie Smollett case. Like, wow, what a ridiculous thing, you know. And like, first of all, the zealotness that would force someone to hire two immigrants to like beat them up and make America great again hats. Like, that's an unhinged human being. That's like, hey, here's $50 each. I want you to bleach me and beat me down. Not too bad. And then scream some racist shit and then run away. Like, that is the equivalent of, you know, the people going on the Crusades, you know? Like, that's just believing in something so fervently, being against something so fervently, and it just becomes an obsession, and you become a zealot, and you're willing to go to ridiculous lengths to show just how bad something is, when at the end of the day, it's just you making it look that bad, and you just made yourself believe it so greatly.
Yeah, but that's like every system, Schweiss. Like every system I see. The United States is a made-up thing. Like, it's made up. We all just agree at it existing. And that's why there is a border, I guess. But the border's really only in our mind because the Earth doesn't give a shit if there's a border there. Like
yeah.
None of the creatures around who don't believe in stories give a shit. Like, the border doesn't exist except in our minds. And we live our lives pretending that something exists.
But see, I would say that doesn't mean it isn't real, which is a hard concept to wrap your mind around, because it is very real. It just doesn't technically exist. It has very real repercussions. It has a very real representation in our lives.
It can have very real repercussions, especially when it comes to war and famine, I guess.
Yeah. It's crazy,
and also incarceration. Like, we all believe in something so much that we have other guys who, if someone breaks the imaginary rules, we got to put them in a very real holding environment. Like, I don't know. It's very interesting. It's really interesting to, like, see it that way. But also, I don't know, Schweiss, for me, like, I'm getting worked up about this now, but, like, now I just go, okay, well, all I can be is, like, as pragmatic as I possibly can, and all I can affect is my own life. And so when I'm hearing, like, these political things, I don't know, I said this at the beginning, my own personal blood pressure has lowered significantly because I suddenly don't care. It's not like I don't care at all, but I don't care from a belief perspective.
Yeah. You care more from, like, okay, what has this person done? What are they probably going to do?
How's this going to affect me? Like, the next person I vote for president, I'm not going to give a shit about their political ideologies. All I'm going to care about is, like, okay, if there was a nuclear war, which could very much affect me.
Yeah.
Who would I want? I would want the closest person to JFK as possible, right? To, like, who has their head on their shoulders?
Well,
in my perspective?
I don't know about that.
And who would have the best interest of survival?
There's a lot of discussion out there that JFK almost killed everybody.
Well, he didn't. No. I guess the only thing...
well, he got killed, so, I mean, yeah, he didn't kill everybody, but there's a Stephen King book about it, and if there's one person that's probably willing to suck JFK all day, suck him off all day long, other than Marilyn Monroe, it would probably be Stephen King. The most popular Democrat ever since Bill Clinton. Yeah, big
you
fan.
Do understand my point, though.
No, I get your point, though. Yeah, you look at it and it's like, okay, who is the best leader? Who would we trust?
Be the most calm? Who's the most trustworthy? Yada yada.
Yeah, who's gonna not react with their base instinct, but take a step back and say, okay, what do we have in front of us? What's happened? What are our options? Like,
I might care more about the made up stories on a local level.
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing that the book discussed in depth was, like, things get so big that they don't work. And I'm like, United States of America. It's just in many other countries. It's just so big, and you have so many things that you have to do that you can't possibly do them in an effective and efficient way. And that's exactly what we're seeing. That's why we're $20+ trillion in debt, is because we are trying to deal with things on such a broad level, and it just, everyone falls through the cracks and it doesn't work. And we have to come up with another backup system that costs us another $1 trillion. And that's why I like the idea of the states having more control over a lot of stuff, because they're able to have a closer to a family style of governing and style of helping people through things, instead of a broad strokes thing that, I mean, how could it work when the average income level ranges by 15, 20,000 from one state to the other, you know? That was another part that I loved in that book, and that's like the whole fall of Rome ideology is it just became too large, and there was too much infighting, and it just collapsed, and other countries were able to take it back, and it imploded.
Yeah, but I just I'm just telling you, like, the reason why this book means so much to me is because, like, now I see the world differently because of that book. Honestly, I see every interaction with another human being differently because of that.
Yeah, and that was one of the things going through my mind when I rammed into that fucking person. Like, I was just like, and it's more of like a Buddhist approach. I feel that I'm starting to kind of take on, just like a like just don't. There's no reason to get really mad about this. Like, shit happens. Like, that's really what we ended up saying. And that's what the other person told me. I was like, sorry, man. Like, I'm sorry I ran into you. And he's like, yeah, you know what? This accidents happen. And I was like, that's fucking true. That's why they're called accidents. And it's like, I can either A, get really, really mad about it and, like, find a way to... And I started doing this. I was like, man, I knew I should have asked Alex to drive. And, like, God, I wish she would have drove. And I was like, no, not going to go down that road. Because that road leads to me being like, well, I mean, if you would have drove, I wouldn't have gotten into that accident. It's like, that's not what it's about. Probably true. Actually, definitely true, because I wouldn't have been driving. But that's not the point. The point is that something happened, and we have to move on. And so I feel like it's had an effect on me when it comes to that as well. And it is interesting to see in the news all these people, like, with their made up stories, calling out other people's made up stories, and they're like,
yes!
oh well, we've got this going, and I'm like, yeah, but you guys did this and this.
It's so crazy. It's like the Shia and the Sunnis. Like, it's so nuts.
Yeah, and it's just endless. It's endless over there.
God. And here it's about even, like, oh my God, it's not steeped in anything that's over 40 years old.
Yeah.
God, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
People are so crazy with what they believe in things so staunchly.
I know, and you'll see, and something will come out, and it's like, something will come out, and you'll see, oh, these guys all propagated this false story, and, like, people will be up in arms for a couple days, and then those people will, and some of them will even still defend it. They'll defend it vehemently. Like, I saw one where, it was the kids surrounding the Native American guy, and then when the actual full footage came out where the guy walked up to them and they were just chanting their school song, and then they all were like, it was like a weird, awkward, like, this guy's coming over here and we're not really mad at it, but we're not going to leave kind of a thing. And then we had other people that were like, I saw somebody on Twitter that was just like, well, I mean, we have the facts, but I think it's important to take this as this and this and this and this. And I'm like, no, it's not important to take it as something it's not, because it isn't. You're making an allegory of nothing. And another thing that comes to mind is the whole Dr. Drew and, like, Chester Bennington thing, where he's talked about on his podcast that he thinks that when Chester Bennington hung himself, he thinks it's an accident because he knew he had an affixation, right? He liked to be choked while he was being pleasured, and so Drew's thing was he thinks he accidentally killed himself because he had no signs of depression. He knew the guy. He didn't think he was the kind of guy that would kill himself. And I know everybody says that, but this guy's a doctor, so it kind of matters a little bit more. And but instead of taking the real approach, people want to romanticize everything, and they want it to be an anti-suicide thing. They're like, oh, well, suicide can hurt all of us.
Instead of an anti-masturbate while you hang yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, but it's a good cause, but it's a lie. It's not true. That isn't what happened. It doesn't matter that this could have been the way it went, and you create this, like, big story and this big, like, oh, this is an example of if it went this way, this and this and this and this and this would need to happen. It's like, yeah, but it didn't, so who fucking cares? You can't, and I think people get so obsessed with that because they believe so vehemently and so mindlessly in the things that they've accepted as true that they can't see past it.
I will state something now. You will never see me protest anything ever.
Exactly.
Because whatever you're protesting for doesn't exist, and whatever is being protested against you doesn't exist. And the idea that there's real violence that happens from these fucking fuckhead white supremacist people that believe in this idea of America that is so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
And then the opposite, which is equally, or not equally stupid. One of them is more stupid than the other, in my opinion. Okay, so like...
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
There's one, yeah. Just both sides going against each other, creating real violence, because that's the real part, based upon made-up shit, is insane to me.
Yeah.
Right? It's fucking crazy town.
It is.
This is what I'm doing for the rest of my life. I'm putting my hands up in the air, and I'm going to act very selfishly and use every fucking political system or economic system that I can for my own purposes. And I'm not going to give a shit about anything else because I know none of it's real. And it's all, I might as well use it for my own gains.
Yeah.
My own material gains, because everything else is in your mind. The idea, because you getting angry at something that doesn't exist, the only real reaction there is the chemicals within your brain, like setting off certain responses that you're feeling.
Yeah. You
don't have to feel that way.
Nope. No, you don't. And it is crazy to see, and it's crazy that they... Like, even with the James Gunn thing, we have a lot of people that are like, oh, they just dug it up because James Gunn made the guy mad, and at the other side of the table, I'm just thinking, like, yeah, but if someone would have said that now, they'd be blacklisted and destroyed in Hollywood. So, which is it? Like, what do you want? And it's not about the players, it's about the team. It's the football team mentality. It's not about the truth or the facts. It's about I believe in this, and this other guy that believes in that thing, he came over and attacked one of us. Even though if one of us did was done by one of them, we would have destroyed him. Like, it doesn't matter because he's one of us. Like, it's crazy. It's like it's just fucking mindless. It's like this hive mentality where they just have a common goal, and it's to go to such lengths to believe it. And then, like I said, some big blow-up will happen, or the Mueller report will come out, and there's not a goddamn thing in there that points to collusion, and it's like, well, now you've wasted 3 years. Your big fucking trick is over. Guess what? He's probably going to win again. Great work. Like, they just focus on these fantasies, and so many people believe so crazily, and then when it comes out and they're like, well, Mueller was a terrible director, and they're like, well, that's got to be the thing, because they're just like, they're frenzied at that point, and they're frothing at the mouth, and it's like, no, it's just, there just wasn't, man. Like, there just wasn't. Like, god damn it, you can dislike him for a million other reasons, but you're going with the made-up one.
A million other reasons, yes, you can.
Truly, a million.
By the way, never been a Trump supporter, but Schweiss, when this shit was coming out, what did I say? I said, they're going to find nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
I did not vote for that guy. I fucking hate him, actually. I don't like this president whatsoever. But I know he didn't collude with, I would just go, that's not Trump's character. I don't know about the people around him. That's what I said to you. It's like, hey, someone else might be pulling strings here. But Trump himself, no.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound right. And it wasn't.
Exactly. And now it's like, it's a big joke. But even now, people are like, well, Miller's not, he's not a great guy either. So now they're coming up with excuses. It's this huge backpedal of like, well, I mean, what if he's withholding evidence? It's like, God, how much more do you need? Like, just focus on the real effects. Focus on what's actually happened. There's plenty of reasons to dislike the guy. Plenty of reasons to dislike the guy. There's reasons to like him. There's even more to dislike him. Like, I don't know why they got to focus on these ideas and these things that aren't real, and they focus on stuff that doesn't matter, and then they rip off Bernie Sanders, who could have probably won, and then they lose the whole thing, and then it becomes a thing where it's like, oh, well, they're just sexist. The world's not ready for a female president. And it's like, no, just it's just a terrible candidate. Like, I don't think every election since we've had the television has been the most pragmatic person has won. It's not going to suddenly change.
I don't think it's the most pragmatic. It's the most charismatic person.
Charismatic, yeah, not pragmatic, sorry. The most charismatic candidate wins. Now, the most pragmatic candidate generally actually loses.
Loses.
It's level-headed, like, well, we should probably do this. Loses to the guy that's like, get you fired up, And
yeah.
so we know that. That's true. That's a fact, But we instead, they instead work on these big, long collusion cases. And, dude, it's been years. This has been going on for years now. And it's just fizzled to nothing. But it won't end there. It'll be another, like, ridiculous claim, and it'll just go on. And it's like, God, if you just focus on something real, it would be fine. But the problem is people don't want that. They want to believe in what they believe. And that's why, we'll have a great libertarian candidate that runs that won't get jack shit. And it's because people believe that he will lose.
But then, when you say libertarian, I roll my eyes immediately too. Like, there's no getting through this. Like, it's all bullshit.
But like, that's the idea of the third party, though, is that you don't have to vote for the two big ones, the lesser of the two evils. There's a third item.
You would have to get rid of the Electoral College in order for a third party to even have a chance.
I don't know about that. I think you could do ranked voting, and I think third parties would actually start winning. Because if you were given a ranking of, the 6 candidates in each party that runs for president, and you like the Democratic guy first, and then you like the Libertarian guy second, and then like blah, 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 down the line. You probably like the Green Party because the world's going to end in 5 years, so Green Party second, and then whatever. But those ones would then get, like, it's almost like the fucking the rankings for the lipstick panel is kind of how other countries do it, and that really gives third parties a chance to win, even with the Electoral College.
Okay.
Because then I would give Libertarian guy 5 points, and you would give him 3 points. Cameron would give him 4 points or whatever, and we'd have varying like spots for each of the 6 candidates, and then we would get a true election rather than a win-or-loss. And the problem with the win-or-loss is everyone's like, oh, well, the third-party candidates don't have a chance. And my whole thing is like, I've been saying this for years. Since I have first voted, when someone told me he didn't have a chance, I'm like, that's only because we tell ourselves that he doesn't have a chance. There are 6 bubbles on this fucking piece of paper. Every one of these bubbles has the same chance as the other one next to it, but we just believe that this guy doesn't, and that's why he loses. There's no real chance or lack of chance there. It's just everyone believes there's no chance. Mm-hmm. And if the people that didn't voted for that guy, he would win every time. Those people don't believe in shit. They don't even believe in going out and voting for the day. Like, if they just believed in this one guy, he would destroy the other two. There would be no contest whatsoever. But like that belief, that power of myth is so strong in these individuals that they believe that the two-party system it's one of the two, and it's all in your head.
Parties are crazy, though, right? Like, and it goes into this in this book. Like, a political party is nutso. Like, just the idea that you believe this, like, collection of beliefs.
Yeah, exactly. And there are some things with the Libertarian Party. Even then, I'm like, I don't think so.
Yeah, no driver's licenses. What the fuck?
Yeah, I'm like, that's a little too far.
No, that's dumb as fuck. That's dumb as fuck.
Like,
that will have real consequences. The real consequences will be people fucking running into each other. Have you been in a high school parking lot recently? Holy shit. There's nothing scarier. You want to just go further.
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, man.
So some of them are crazy. And it's funny because there was one, I was looking at the debates for the Libertarians, and one of the guys was like mocking Gary Johnson. He's like, he thinks we should have to have driver's licenses. And I'm like, well, yeah. Like, I don't see what the problem is. Like, I can understand, like, hey, I don't want to pay my registration for my car anymore. Like, this is bullshit. That's fine to bitch about. But, like, a driver's license, a driver's ed course that takes you a month once in your life ever, and you're done, and you have to renew your license every 6 years or 8 years, yeah, that's fine. Like, God. So yeah, even then,
that's
it's like
a story I'll believe for a second. Like, I'll just be like, I'll support this made-up story about licenses.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. That lowered my blood pressure, makes everybody who has like a strong political belief of any kind look like a kook. I don't know, man. That book is like, it has changed my DNA almost, and like, I just don't care anymore. Like, if people will ask me for my political opinion, and I honestly go, I say the words "I don't know" almost every time. Like, I don't know. My word.
And I think that's important to take kind of that approach, because there's a lot of things that we don't really know about. So, it's hard to have a stance on it. I mean, any sort of event ever is there. We'll get all this data in, and it's like, and I got into an argument with somebody on Twitter a little while ago about this. And they're like, guns claimed 30,000 people in the U.S. last year, or some number, right? And I was like, well, that's a lot of people. I wonder what it was. And I look it up, and it's like 19,000 were suicides. And I'm like, oh, well, I mean, that's kind of a ridiculous thing to be like, got to get them out of the streets because people are killing themselves. I'm like, yeah, it's important to not kill yourself, but like, you're reacting to a tragedy happening. You're reacting to somebody using it violently, and that is your reality that's been painted in your mind, when in actuality, most deaths from that are suicides. Like, not that suicide is not an important thing and that's something we should avoid, but it's the fact of the matter is that's a lot of them. So like, it becomes a religious belief that these are, bad things, when just like talking to the guy who said socialism is inherently evil, a gun being inherently evil is ridiculous. A gun sitting there does nothing. Like, it just sits. Like, it takes someone that believes it does something, or it takes someone that believes they need to use it for something. It's that belief that makes it what it is,
Yeah.
And
but that belief is psychotic. All of those people...
It really is.
All of those people who either killed themselves or killed someone else, they are nuts.
They have mental problems. Exactly.
Yes.
So the true problem in my mind is to approach mental health. Because that's what made them do the thing.
And
with
a
the
chunk
thing.
of them... Now, a gun is easier to kill someone with than
that is true.
Many other tools. But a chunk of them will still be too nuts to live in society. And so we gotta, like, okay. So to me, like, that's the pragmatic approach. It's like, okay, how do we regulate this in some sort of way? So I now there, like, the ways to do so, I don't know if I'll ever like really know the correct answer for that.
Well, that's the hard part, is there is no correct answer. And that's what
tough.
makes, and when you acknowledge that, you become human again. Like, you're no longer like a drone that just follows whatever you've chosen to follow.
What's the word for someone who like just repeats what other people say? I don't know, there's a word for it. But it's just like, I recognize that I don't know the answer. Like, obviously one answer is gun control. Another answer is socialist mental health services. And another answer is like, I don't know, like stronger moral values. I have no idea. Like, those are all like different stories that we can like...
latch onto.
Latch onto. But like another time, like Schweiss. So Timo, like my best friend from childhood, he now lives in LA kind of with me. He lives in a part of LA that's fucking scary. And he hears gunshots every once in a while. Now, gunshots where me and Timo grew up versus gunshots in the middle of LA, they have two very different feelings to them. You hear a gunshot in Springville, Utah, you think, oh, someone's up on the mountain doing some target practicing. They're probably having a good time up there. They're drinking some soda, and they got some targets up, and no one's getting hurt.
Yeah.
A gunshot in the middle of Los Angeles, someone's getting murdered. Not
or attempting
too far
to.
away. Yeah, or attempting to. And so it's like, there's just like the difference in like what something means. It's so interesting how different it could be just based upon the culture around it.
Exactly. Both of them very real, but
yes.
both of them very real in different areas and for different reasons,
Yeah. So, I mean, it's something like totally... You're never going to get the people... By the way, so many people here have never left Southern California, not even for a vacation. It's, like, crazy to me. I work with a bunch of people that are, like, lower class, like, as far as, like, financially concerned. So, like, it's downtown L.A., like, a lot of people from the ghetto and stuff like that.
Right.
And so it's super sad to me that they never leave, but the people that never leave Utah and the people that never leave Southern California are going to be the same. They're going to have like a group of beliefs that they have and one's going to say guns are evil and one's going to say guns are great.
Yeah.
And they're both kind of bullshit.
Because they're really just whatever. They're just something that we can do whatever we want with.
Yeah.
Like we can.
Yeah.
It's just like money.
To it.
It's just like money. We wield power when we wield the dollar. Like we have the ability to do what we wish with that. Yeah. And that's real. What we get from it is real. But the idea that they're good or evil it's just not true. There's nothing. They're nothing. Without us, they wouldn't even be. So how the hell could they be good or evil if they're man-made?
Yeah. But then the idea is like, well, we definitely have, like, we have all decided as the human conglomerate, or at least most people have decided, killing yourself and killing others is wrong.
Exactly, yeah.
So we've decided to believe the story that killing is wrong. Okay. So now we have to, figure out what story is best to make that, a reality when it comes to how do we avoid people getting shot with guns?
Yeah, it's like having a lie that you tell to somebody that you have to just keep adding and adding on to, like the person you don't want to hang out with that just keeps bugging you to hang out, and you're like, oh, I was doing this and this, and like it just becomes such a skewed, like, ridiculous thing as time goes on, and like the story just keeps taking twists and turns. That's kind of what it turns into. It's just as bullshit as that.
Yeah. So it's like, well, I always joke that I've turned into a nihilist after reading *Sapiens*. In some ways, I have. It's just like none of it matters.
Yeah.
But in the same way, it's like now I'm looking at things like, okay, now I'm going to try to... It's hard to do this because human beings are emotional. I'm emotional. I make decisions emotionally, whether or not I believe I do or not. And so, now I have to, try to, or attempt to, try to make logical decisions. Or, support candidates from a logical point, or something like that.
And I ran into that with my house, with deciding, do I refinance or do I not? And I was like, man, if I refinance and I pull out $40,000 to pay off both cars and any other outstanding debt, student loans and stuff that are going to start accruing small but still interest, I lose out on I'm back to where I bought the house from. And I was wrestling with that because I was like, I've been working really hard to get it down to where it's at. I paid off $30,000 in it already, which is pretty impressive considering I've only had it for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And when I sat down and really looked at it, I was like, what am I talking about? I have the option to reduce my bare minimum. I have to pay this money or I lose some big chunk of my life from $1,400 to $860. That's a yes. That's a yes 1,000 times over again, because it's all about getting rid of what you absolutely positively have to pay. And I was like, why would I even consider not doing this? The interest rate is higher, but I don't have the mortgage insurance premium that I never get back, that never goes towards anything other than insuring the loan because it's a federal housing administration loan. And now it's not. I also have the option to sell the house after only living here for one more year. If I choose, I can rent it out after one more year. It only has to be my primary residence for a year rather than the entirety of the loan. And it was when I really sat down and looked at it, it was the belief. It was just the random value I had attributed to bringing it down to just over $100,000 that I owed, that was keeping me from doing this thing that was so clearly the right choice to do and so clearly the better path forward. And it was just this almost like weird quasi pride that I had for working really hard and being diligent for at least most of it, except for recently, and paying it down. And I was like, how ridiculous is that? I almost didn't do it because I just felt like, oh, well, I'm backtracking, even though, like,
there's a feeling of like progress, like this thing that you made up in your head about progress.
Exactly, and I'm like,
some sort of moral value to it that doesn't actually exist.
yeah, and I'm like, okay, at the end of the day, I still owe X amount of money. It doesn't matter where I owe it to. Like, just get it done. And like, if I'm going to pay more owing it this way, but I'm going to be proud of the fact that my house is in double digits before that comma instead of triple digits, like, it doesn't matter if I still owe $13,000 on my car? No, it really kind of doesn't. You know, it was crazy that, I just attached this sense of pride and this belief that I was doing the right thing, which I was, but, like, that was the thing that was keeping me from doing what was so clearly the better choice, you know. It gave me so much more freedom. And that's one of the other things that, like, it's just one of those natural progressions within life. Like, getting your driver's license is a big step to being free in the United States, because then you can kind of go wherever. And then also having money is free, and by giving myself more money, I gave myself more freedom. Really, is
perceived
really
freedom, but yes, freedom.
Yeah. As long as everyone believes in it, it's there, right?
As long as everyone believes it, it's real, right? It's crazy. Yeah. I'm glad you read that book finally. It's a fucking great book.
It is, yeah.
It's a really cool, like, lens to view the world in a lot of ways. And the way he writes it, I mean, it's a lot of things that you've heard of before, but it's the way he breaks things down just makes you go, oh, wow. And then it makes you think of things in new ways. It's a lot for me, anyway. So that was, that's a big deal to me. I love that book, and I kind of like... I like what it's done to me, because I used to be, and you hear me on this podcast, and obviously we're going on a tirade right now, but I used to be a very angry young man, and now I feel like I'm a much less angry young man.
Yeah. And I think having like a family and me having my son now, I think that's gonna kind of affect that too, because it's like, I mean, why get mad at something that it just doesn't matter? Like, so many things are just they just don't matter. Like, what's the point of getting mad about, you know, scraping up my car and having to replace a few parts and my bill going up by $20, $30 every 6 months? Because I have accident forgiveness, and they I don't know if they truly forgive, because last time I had that, it still fucking went up. So, like, I don't know what you guys are forgiving. It's like, we'll let it slide if you slip us a 20. Like, okay. But, like, what's the point of that when, like, I have I am now tasked with keeping this small human being alive that kind of wants to kill himself all the time, as far as I can tell. It's like, no, don't put that in your mouth. No, don't roll off the bed. Like, the little kids do so many things, you know. Like, what are all of these things when compared to something like that? You know, something real, something that matters.
Yeah, something that you have given value to. Like, chemically, you are also given value to.
Yeah.
So it's all. Yeah, it's all very interesting. It's like, I don't know, maybe Schweiss, maybe you and I are just growing up a little bit. I don't know. I guess, like, every 22-year-old, because I'm listening to old episodes of this show, and I hate myself. I hate myself so much.
Yeah.
I don't even know why people listen to our show. Like,
I've been feeling that too.
Who is this fucking douche?
We've been saying it for years, you know.
Yeah. And, like, I don't know, man. It's just so interesting how much has changed. But, yeah,
what's interesting to me is I'm, like, listening to myself, and I'm like, man, I sound like Cody. Like, I sound like I've been spending all of my time with Cody. And I thought back, and I was like, Dad, that's because that's exactly what I was doing. It was exactly what I was doing. Like, the way I talk, like, the way I bitch about stuff. Like, I'm just, like slightly agitated about everything that the series has. And I'm like, man, yeah, how do we have these people that have been listening to us since day one? Like, it's a totally different beast now. Like, we do way more as far as, like, the story. We do an in-depth, like, overview and stuff like that. And it's like, it's all changed as far as that goes, and we've changed as drastically as the amount of work we put in and the amount of deep diving we do has changed. And so it's crazy. You know, it's crazy to me that you guys have stuck around. It's awesome to be able to do, like, a random episode like this, mostly because I honestly just didn't have time to listen to the 13 book that we're working on.
Yeah, I got notes for it. I got Final Fantasy 13-2 fragments before Chapter 2. Notes all ready to go.
Yeah, we'll probably do that maybe next time.
Yeah.
If we're not going to do Dissidia next week.
We might. I mean, if I beat it this week and you beat it this week, then yeah, hell yeah. But
I guess we could ask for questions and your reviews.
Yeah, if anybody's still listening.
Exactly, yeah. If anyone's still on this podcast. Let's look at the Podbay or Podcast Addict, and it's like 0 subscribers.
Yeah.
Super Sexy's got like 10K, you know.
Yeah.
Let's go to a show where they do the show.
Oh my god. Yeah, man. Sapiens. I recommend that book to everybody. I also recommend Power of Myth by Joseph Campbell and Bill Moyers. It's just an interview. There was a television show miniseries that was like 4th, 6th of the interviews that are in the book, but the book is a great way to kind of digest everything that Joseph Campbell is saying. It's just an amazing, like, philosophy, an amazing way of looking at culture and at stories and why stories are so important to human beings. And then Sapiens, to take that concept further and tell you that everything is a lie. It's great. It's all to me, it's all great stuff that has just made my life just like, you know, just my pulse is just like way more relaxed about world events and things that I would have, like, subscribed some sort of meaning to before. And now it's a different meaning. So it's just all different. So I recommend those books. Even if you don't agree with it, I'd like to hear someone who reads Sapiens all the way through and doesn't agree with it. I couldn't find it, like, an Amazon review. Like, there's not that many people that I think have finished that book that go like, meh, trash. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, there were some people that, like, call some of the stuff into question as far as, like, factually.
Oh, okay.
I think that was more the research and then he kind of does go a little wonky at the very end.
He does. I know there's a sequel to that book called Homo Deus, I think, which is supposed to be like his idea of what the future of the human race will be and kind of where all this storytelling is going to take us consciously. Yeah, that part, I was just like, this does not make me feel good. And I don't know why it doesn't make me feel good. It just doesn't. Because if he's right, it doesn't, like, I don't like this. And it's actually the same concept they did at the end of 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's all like that baby in space is supposed to be. This is stuff I learned from the 2001 making of book. It's supposed to be all of human consciousness put together. It's like supposed to be like the next step in humanity. And I was
because
that kind of stuff. They also explore it in Neon Genesis Evangelion, believe it or not. And in both Neon Genesis and 2001, they never fucking had to say it outright as to what everything is, but that's what it is. It's like the melding of all human minds into one consciousness, and, like, I don't know. It's cool.
Because the monolith in that movie is, every time it shows up, is like a huge advancement for mankind. So at the very ending is like all of that to the next step. It's because up at that point it had been things that we knew and had experienced, but when the astronauts touched it in the movie, that's when we started moving towards the baby, which is a really bizarre image. It's awesome, but that's.
So anyway, like, that last 5% of the book, like, I kind of go, okay, that's cool, that's an interesting idea, but it's the stuff before then. That's the stuff that to me was like mind blowing.
Yeah, and I listened to the money part twice. Like, I was like, man, this is so fucking cool. Like, the idea of money, I'm just like, it's such an ingenious idea. It's like so simple, but like so complex.
It's ingenious, but also after listening to that, like, and I think we have touched on this show. I think I might have brought it up. Like, the idea that, like, you're giving value to anything. So it's like, gold to me now doesn't have any more inherent value than fucking credit. Like, it's all just an exchange in our minds.
Yeah.
That we give value to. So, like, the next person that says gold standard, I'm going to punch in the face. But that would be ridiculous, right? Because why should they not have their own story? Like, I don't know. It's yeah. To me, like, it just all sounds so ridiculous. I listened to the Great Courses stock market course, and I think that was a couple years ago, and I was just like, this is an insane system. The stock market, in reality, if you think about it, in reality, it's an insane system. And, like, the Great Course of Stock Market thing, he, like, explained what a company was. And, like, a company is maybe a building and some computers and some paper, chairs, and desks. That's what a company actually is. It's like whatever it physically has, but then we're just, like, making up value, perceived value, and it goes up and down. Like, we're all just doing this to each other.
Well, and it's not even that.
It's not real.
Like, with the stock market, like, they have value. Like, they have assets, and they have, like, clout, and they have this and that. But it's also based on the stockbrokers. Like, it's based on their perception and their feelings of that value, of what they're looking at. So, like, it's not only just our perception of what that company is worth. It's someone else's perception and, like, how they're feeling. Like, are we feeling it for Dell today? Are we feeling it or not? And if they're not, it's going to go down. If they are, it's going to go up. Like, it's like the collective attitude towards a specific stock based on the actions of the company or based on the market, based on how things are looking. And it's all forecasting, so it might not necessarily be true. And that's why Alexandria has stock in Wayfair, because that's where she works. At one point, it was worth like 130 last year. It dropped down to like 80, and now a little while ago it was at like 160 again. And that's exactly why.
It's insane.
It's how
it's
we're
insane that we
about
put value into that. That's crazy. So
yeah, it's nuts.
I don't know. It's yeah, whatever, man. It's just a different way of looking at the world. To me, it's more nihilistic. I don't know, but it's just because, like, I guess nihilism is you don't, like, nothing matters, right? I guess to me, like, some
it's like
things
nothing,
matter.
It's nothing. It's nothing means anything.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's like it's more douchey than being. Because me and I think most people were kind of cynical. And, like, it's because of people like you, like what you just said. You're like, I just want to do what benefits me. And it's like, well, that's exactly why cynicism is a thing. And it's not as negative as nihilism. Nihilism is like, everything's shit. It's always been shit and it'll always be shit. And cynicism is like, well, everyone's trying to make their own, trying to do the best by themselves, which is kind of what we're doing in America. We want to make the best of it.
We might have the definitions of the words slightly off. But I think we understand each other. I don't know. Here's what I love. I love Final Fantasy. And I love Game of Thrones. And I love the movie The Mustang now in theaters. I also love the movie Us, but go see Us and Mustang together if you want. You can do a double feature. But it's all like, I don't know, like, people getting really upset about things that don't matter, like pronouns. It now on both sides, by the way, people like getting upset that people want them to use it, and also people wanting them to use certain words to describe certain things. Like, both of those ideas seem absolutely fucking ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
And And to me, it's like, well, if I'm with this person, they want me to use this pronoun, then it is in my best interest to use this pronoun so that we can get along smoothly and nothing will result in violence or shunning.
Yeah.
And with this person, it doesn't matter. Yeah. So, I don't know. Now, like, at some point, when I was 22 and starting this show, I would have been really angry about the pronoun thing. Pronoun thing hadn't happened yet. But now, it's just like, okay, I'll call you a mix. What is it, mix?
Yeah, mix.
Excuse me, mix? Yeah. Sure. Why the fuck not?
It just sounds like miss, though. I think you're right. You mentioned that earlier before we started recording. We'll see how that goes. Like they'll do the mix, and then like it'll be the GameStop guy, and he's like, "It's ma'am." Like, well, fuck me running. I'm sorry. But yeah, it really doesn't matter, and it's ridiculous to make it matter. So to make it like, oh, you should have done this. So it's like, well, it doesn't matter. So yeah, I agree. It's ridiculous to expect people to do it, and it's ridiculous to be mad at people wanting it done. You know, because it doesn't mean anything.
See, I would have been mad at one point, being like, "What's my freedom of speech?" And like now, I'm like, that's just a made up concept. Freedom is what I decide it is, I guess, in my own mind.
Yeah.
Like a mutual friend of ours is like talking on Facebook, and I just like, he was like talking about, you know, YouTube censoring people for doing things that they consider hate speech, and like, yeah, in the end, I'm like, we're all just like deciding what rights are and what they aren't, and whether or not that is involved in the private or public sector, and private or public sector is also made up, and now it doesn't matter anymore. Like, now I just don't care.
Yeah, and my thing on that is like, I wish we had something that was completely unfiltered and completely pure.
But at the same time, like, people who are doing hate speech, like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it is, yeah. And I'm like, and it's also YouTube, so get over it. If you don't like it, then go somewhere else. But there isn't anywhere. Oh, well, then suck it the fuck up. Like, I think it's dumb that they pick and choose. Motion. Yeah, I think it's bullshit that they pick and choose what they will allow and what they won't allow. Yeah. And they definitely lean more liberal on YouTube, but that's their company. They get to decide. That's their freedom of speech to say and allow what they want on their profile, on their platform. And guess what? You don't own your fucking Facebook page. You're borrowing it from someone. Someone says, hey, this is something you can use, but we're going to use advertising. And like people get mad at advertising on their Facebook, like, I keep sharing this ad on my page. It's like, oh, did you code your page? Did you set up the server? No? Oh, I guess it's not fucking yours then, is it? So shut the fuck up. You just get off the site. Like, if it's that big of a deal, just leave. Like, it's not yours. You did nothing. You literally did nothing to get this. You just signed in. You used an email address that someone else gave you, that someone else made and allowed you to use to get something else that someone made and allowed you to use. Like, it's insane.
Yeah, I started meditating recently.
Jesus.
I'm not kidding. And I started doing the Zazen thing, or like the non-religious version of that. What do they call? I think it's just called mindfulness, right? Where you're just like focusing on like one thing. You're just focusing on your breathing, and you're allowing thoughts to enter, but you're trying not to give them like any meaning. So it's just a good way to, like, I know now it could be like what do you call that when what is the word?
The placebo effect?
Like, placebo, yeah. It could totally be placebo, and I recognize that. But at the same time, like, there's an interesting concept there that I had heard where it was like, well, you should just focus on what you're actually doing in reality, because everything else is in your mind. In reality, there's a piece of plastic in front of you called a computer that we've decided we call a computer, and what you're doing actually, in reality, is just sitting there and moving your fingers. There's nothing real going on except for that. Like, yeah. So just kind of like the whole reality of the thing is like crazy. It's just, I don't know. Hey, I do like the meditation thing, though. I'm starting to use it. Yeah, I use a visualizing meditation to like visualize like what a successful day is going to be or what a successful year. Like I'm like seeing myself doing those things, and then also like, and it works really well with motivation. But then also like when my mind's getting like too cluttered, like I do the breathing thing. I've been doing that for about 3 weeks now, and starting to like it a lot. Starting to like it. Didn't think I would. I mean, obviously, like I decided I was gonna try it because so many like artists that I look up to kind of try that shit.
Yeah.
And then now I'm doing it. I'm not doing that fucking TM thing where it's like a religious chant, and you believe in like powers or whatever. I'm doing the mindfulness, but
yeah,
it's great. Like if you have like a crazy mind that's like going all over the place, and you're thinking about money problems, and you're thinking about, you know, all these things that aren't actually like happening right now, but you're like putting like emotional currency into it, and like, oh, this, you know, what she said at work, yada yada yada. You're just like going over shit in your mind like crazy. It's a really good way to just be like clear it out, just like focus on one thing, and then after like 8 minutes of sitting there, it's just like, oh, it's kind of, most of that's gone now. Like 90% of it is like 90% of like the emotional baggage it's subsided. So I do like that. So I also recommend that. Even if it's placebo, I recommend that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Great chat, Schweiss. Anything else you want to bring up?
I don't think so. That's pretty much where I've been at lately.
All right. Well, you had a baby this week. I want to congratulate you on your son.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And I hope you enjoy fatherhood, and I hope you don't abuse the child like you abuse your cat.
Yeah. He is louder, but it's more acceptable.
You want to throw him across the room less?
Yeah, not really at all. Dude, oh man, I gotta tell you about this. So, I was holding them, right, and I've done this a couple times. I've done it numerous times since, but he'll because babies are kind of blind, like they can't really see beyond like 6 to 8 inches away from them.
Yeah.
And when you pick him up and you hold him a certain way, he thinks it's time to start latching onto the titty and get some milk, you know.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then I like held him up to my face, and he started like, he does this like old man face looking thing where he closes his eyes and his like wrinkly ass neck just like just like looking around, and I put my nose there, and he like latched on and he sucked on my nose for like 2 or 3 seconds, and then he opened his eyes and he's just looking at me, just like sucking on the nose, and then he like pulls away and he's just deadpan staring at me, and then he just shits himself, just like this super loud like liquid shit, just and then his face like scrunches up a little, and it's like the last couple little drops, and then he just stares at me. I was like, wow, what a flex move, man. This kid just fucking took me down and like teabagged me. It's the equivalent of a teabag after a kill on Call of Duty or something, you know.
Oh my god.
I just thought it was so funny, and so now every once in a while I'll let him like bite my nose a few times. He's like, it's really weird, but
well, Schweiss, I think this is the percentage of Final Fantasy talk within this episode is probably the lowest we've ever had.
Yeah.
But hey, it's great catching up with you.
Yeah, guys.
Next week we will definitely talk about Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we were considering having someone else come in and do the episode with Joe.
Yeah, so there you go.
So you got something from us, right?
That's right.
It's not a biggie. It's not a biggie. One out of what, like 300 something episodes we have on the feed?
284.
Yeah, you'll make it. It's crazy how many more, yet how close Nude Clan is to the amount of episodes that Ultima has. Now that they're doing 2 a week for Nude Clan, but even without it, it's like I think we just released like episode 180 for Nude Clan, and I'm like, damn, man, that's a lot. There's a lot of fucking episodes of that thing, and it feels like we started it so much later than Ultima, and I think it's just because of how we were just lining up those games and knocking them right the fuck down in the beginning.
Yeah.
Now it's just become too big. It's become too large to manage. The fall of Ultima.
Nah. We've got what do we got? 4 books, an audio drama, a television show, and 8 games. That's what we got left.
Yeah. Oh, we'll have a Daddy of Light movie too, which I was going to talk about in the news. But
fuck, I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's for Japan though, so I mean, if we don't get at least subtitles, I don't know how we're going to watch it. So
we'll get subtitles. We'll get it, right? Is it a Netflix thing again, or is it separate? I guess how about we find out next time?
Yeah, we'll find out. I don't know if they. It says it's coming to theaters, so I doubt it's a Netflix thing.
Not necessarily. Not anymore. Netflix.
Unless now the Spielberg has bullied them into releasing it in the theaters, then it might be.
Well,
if that happens,
it is a requirement with the Academy Awards to release it in theaters for at least 2 weeks. So that's always been the case. I don't think anything changed.
Did they do that for Roma then?
They did. Roma has a box office amount. It's just very low. I think they did a very limited release.
Oh, okay.
It's just him going, well, it's produced by Netflix and it's made for Netflix. I think that's like the emotional thing that he's going on about. I don't think it's factually correct, but I guess I would have to look into it. They would have to be breaking their own rules in order for Roma to have been nominated if it never went to theaters.
Yeah, it's clearly not factually correct. And it is... unfortunately, film is dying. Much like the music industry died. It's really not dead. I think it kind of is. It's at least changing.
It's changing, sure, but it's not dying. There's a difference. And you know what? Theatrical, people going to the theaters is up in the last 2 years rather than...
Well, yeah, the economy's better, but I think overall more people are doing streaming than going to the theaters.
Yeah, there's also more people.
Yeah, that's true. There's enough. We're growing that pie, and there's enough for everyone. Right.
Yeah, it's the truth is every time there's no art form ever dies. It just kind of changes. It becomes more specialized as other art forms grow up. So obviously television is I wouldn't say... Is television actually getting bigger? I don't think it is. I think television is just huge, and it will always be huge, right?
In some ways, though, cable TV is... I think it's dying. But that doesn't mean, television-style companies are dying, necessarily, because HBO is doing very well. Netflix is doing very well.
It's just different. The art will continue forward. The business side of it will... it will change,
It'll
whatever
have
the venue
to, yeah.
is, yeah. Or if theaters are movie theaters are just that thing you go into in the main part of town, and they're really nice and they're really expensive tickets, kind of like doing a play, putting on a play, communally or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just, it'll be different, but I mean, it's still going to be a pretty big art form, even if it's there's not a theater in every town anymore,
Yeah, I think it'll get smaller, but that doesn't
But to
mean
me,
it'll go away.
I can't think about that. I just have to my job right now, Schweiss, is to be so talented I can't be ignored, and to work on my art and work on my craft. I think for me, it doesn't I don't like having business discussions about Hollywood because to me it's that's not what I'm here for.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a little bit different. Whatever it is that it takes to finance, or whatever it is that it takes to distribute, or whatever platform it goes on, people will still want singular experiences to watch something with their friends or family or with strangers. They'll still have that want to do that. So,
yeah, exactly. It just depends on how you do it.
In whatever form that takes, whether it takes a new Netflix original movie, like Bright or whatever, or Bird Box. Even if it's something like that, or one of the other platforms, or if it's something more exclusive or something like that, it doesn't fucking matter.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
It doesn't matter. It won't matter to me. I think there's too many people around here that talk about like box office. Like, as the artist, that should not be your concern. I don't know. As the artist, but as film fans, maybe it's like fun to like. But I mean, like, how much attachment? Like, do you give a shit about your favorite movies and how much money they made?
I feel I think it's cool when I look at like a Grand Theft Auto 5 and like something that I was like, oh, this is going to be so great, and then it turns out to be amazing and it sells a ton. Like,
yeah,
I do think it's cool, like looking at something that colossal and being part of it from the beginning is kind of cool. But yeah, largely, I mean, most really well respected films don't really gross that much, you know.
A lot of them don't. A lot of them don't.
They're not approachable for a lot of people, so they're hard to market, they're hard to sell, and they'll go on to be great, but you know, just later, just not financially great.
Or they'll just like they'll do okay, right? And they'll just be a decent business thing for the time.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Maybe the movie cost $5 million to make and it made $7.5 million, right? Like, and it's like, yeah, it's fine. Did fine. That those kind of numbers not okay now, but it would have to like make $12 million. But
I mean, I guess I got it a little bit when I looked at Hateful Eight, and I was like, oh man, I want that movie to do really well because I like it and I like Quentin Tarantino, and like I was like, man, I wish it was doing better. But like at the end of the day, the fucking movie made I'm looking at it right now, $155.8 million, and I'll tell you the budget is sitting at 44 to 54 million, so like that tripled. It's not a big deal. It wasn't the number one movie on release, which the last one may very well have been. I'm not even sure, but I like Quentin Tarantino, so I like seeing his movies do well. And so as far as that's concerned, yeah, I do give some. I do care a little bit about how my favorite movies are doing, just because I know that affects the artist to some extent. But at the same time, the guys who did that show, that racing show that you and Cameron watched a bunch. It was like the Grand Tour or whatever.
I did not watch that.
Oh, it was a great God. I watched like clips of it with Cameron. It was pretty fucking funny. But they did something and they lost their jobs. Like they pulled the program, and I think they said something like fucked up or something, like some off comment, and they just ripped it out. And one of the guys was like, well, I just bought this Ferrari. Like, I'm fucked, man. I'm so screwed. But then, like, a week later, Netflix or Amazon comes in and, like, is like, hey, here's a couple $1 million. We're going to put you on our network.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's one of those things where it's like, if someone's really fucking good at something, I don't think they're going to be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
They're gonna be fine, and maybe they're just fine. They just rest on the amount of money they made on like one of their big projects, but they're gonna be. Should they like be financially like responsible? They're gonna be okay. They'll find their talents are going to work somewhere, and so like, I don't know. I stopped giving a shit about how much a movie. Like, I have no idea if Mustang is making any money right now. But I know, like, I'm going to tell people to go see The Mustang, because to me, it's a fantastic movie, and it's out in theaters right now. And just a great little indie film. And, you know, maybe it's a success, maybe it's not. But to me, it means something. And the people who made it, they're going to be fine. Because someone's going to see the quality of work, and they're going to be able to get another job.
Yeah, exactly.
Fine. So, I don't know.
It's the religious aspect of the theater being the art, but really the theater is just the vessel for the art.
Yeah. And I love the theater, so as long as theaters are around, I will be going. I go to theater twice a week now. Like, that's what I do because I fucking love it so much.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if I didn't have like this AMC pass, I'd be going like every other week. So that's about where I was before when I had to pay for every single ticket. So I don't know. And most people go to see a movie like once a season or like 3 times a year. Depends on if they have kids or not. Like if someone has kids, I think their movie watching goes way the fuck down. But people make like big claims like, oh, I used to see the movies all the time, but now I don't. And like, I don't think you do. I think, like, especially people in my life that have claimed those things, I go, no, I think it's about the same. I think you see a lot more TV, like you don't rent as many movies.
Yeah,
I think that's something that's true. I think TV has taken over on the home entertainment aspect, but I think, yeah, like, hey, Mom, you saw Star Wars. You saw, like, I know you've seen 3 movies this year. And I think it was about the same before. Like, I think when Blockbuster was in full effect, I think the amount of times you went to the theater was probably about once a season. And like, I think that's true for most people. Like, they go see like the huge movies, and that's it. And it's always kind of been that way.
Right.
So it's just like what those huge movies were has changed throughout time. It's like the disappointing thing is like, oh, the really cool adult-oriented dramas used to be the big movies in the 70s, and now it's like the comic book movies have taken over, and so it's just different. It's just changed. That's all.
Yeah, it really has.
Yeah. So, but I mean, there's still great films being made, and people are still going to theater. It's a great date for teenagers. So like, yeah, it's all there, and and I will continue to go to the theater, and I will support it. But to me, like, whatever the venue changes, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Movies are still going to be around, and there's going to be shitty popcorny ones, or mediocre. I shouldn't say shitty. Sometimes there'll be shitty popcorny ones, but like there'll be like a lot of like mediocre crap. And then there's going to be some really good shit in there. And it's going to be a mix of all that throughout time until human beings die out on this planet.
Yeah.
Or our consciousness changes or something
Exactly.
like that.
Exactly.
Can't matter to me. And it doesn't, can't allow it to matter to me. But yeah, okay, well now we do actually need to end this fucking show. I got shit to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, guys. Thanks for listening. You tweet me at Joseph Vigolier.
Tweet me at UFF Podcast.
Our website is ultimafinalfantasy.com. And you can support us on Patreon if you want. And we're still going to be around for a few more months as we clean up these last 8 games through our main weekly series. I don't know. I don't think we're going to meet our deadline, but we also need info on KupoCon. We're getting closer, Schweiss.
Yeah, definitely.
So we got to make our decision, like how long we're going to be there. And yeah, we're going to KupoCon. It's just like how many days we're going to be in Newark, and also how shit-faced we're going to get.
Exactly.
Unlike last time when I was like, I don't want to spend any money. I'm going to sleep. I think this time we're going to see a different part of Joe. I think we're going to have like a good like final hurrah for this thing. So I'm excited to get to that and meet the people who go up to KupoCon with us.
Yeah, can't wait to drown in my own vomit.
That's right. That's in June, I believe.
What if that
right?
actually happened? Like, how dark would this episode be?
That'd be fucked up. No, the real truth would is like you say it and then it happens to me. That's exactly what would happen.
Oh yeah, I'm like, ooh, that's not funny anymore.
Yeah, I know. And he's a single single tear shed for Joe.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah. Until then, as always, enjoy the Sapiens grind.
Ultima Final Fantasy is a podcast created by Entertainment and is executive produced by Joseph Vigolier, Caleb Schweiss, Caleb Gray, and Cameron Wilson. To find out more, go to geekdomentertainment.com.